Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. First, we're going to read a quick rendition of the script, and then we're going to start with NERDA. And so first off, we are using Zoom webinar for this meeting for those to participate remotely. It also allows the public to participate in this meeting as an attendee. Attendees must register to participate. The registration link is unique to the meeting. People registered will be an attendee. They must use their names when they come on. Usually I introduce you, but if I don't, please use your name. Otherwise, they will not be allowed to participate. Attendees will join in listening mode. They can raise their digital hand to be heard. And there will be public comment tonight. Most of the other stuff is if we were completely remote. So there's that. So tonight we're going to start with the Nantucket Regional Transit Authority. So we will call that meeting to order. Hi, Paula. Do we just make sure there's any public comment tonight for things that are not on the NERDA agenda? I repeat, the NERDA agenda, not the select board agenda. Don't see any. Approval of the minutes for October 13, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then we have an update. Hi, Paula. Oh, what? I missed something? Let's see if that's for NERDA. Hi, Gary. Is this for NERDA?
No, it is not.
Okay, this is NERDA right now. We'll start select board after this.
Okay.
Go ahead, Paula.
This is you, Mr. Chairman, to update on our finance.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Compensation.
So I sat in on the finance audit committee compensation. There's the auditor and the accountant, and we went over everything, and everything looked great, and they were very pleased with the operations for NERDA. And it's the same two guys for a while. So
Yep.
they've about 10 years or 8 years. So they've helped improve things over time. And they said there's really nothing that we really suggest. They said that Paula and her team have done everything over the years to improve, and that it's a well-run operation. And they work with a lot of NERDAs. Not all of them are ran quite this well. Any questions on that, on the audit?
No, that's great news.
Yeah, nicely done. Do you want me to just keep going down, or do you want to? Or do you want to say anything?
No, just that, I work really hard with 2 staff people for the audit and internal controls for all our, anything and everything under the financial realm and the policies and all of that. So, yeah, it's with 2 people. It's not necessarily an easy task because we're doing the same jobs as other RTAs with many staff to have that.
Mhm.
So, but it's old hat now. 27 years.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Paul. So the next agenda item is approval of the FY23 budget. Is there any questions there?
Yeah, I just had one. Purchase transportation going down by 200,000. Why was that? What's the?
We entered a new contract, and that brought the price down a little bit, and the service levels that we've had prior to. Some of that in FY22 was anticipating extra services for capacity, demand, distancing, and those types of things. If we had to add a second or third.
So you
bus
added
line.
them and now you're bringing some back because you won't need them. You're
Yep.
assuming. Okay.
Yep, hopefully.
That's my only real question. And then just a comment, I'm going to meet with Paula in June and try to get ridership numbers.
Mhm.
That's something we used to have more regularly. And I think it's something we need to evaluate the efficiency and the, viability of all these runs.
Yep.
So I'm going to meet with her in June and go through that and report back.
Great. Thank you, Matt. When Paul and I were discussing, I had some questions on, salaries, why are they lower? And FY21 was COVID, when there wasn't anybody in Greenhound.
Yeah.
There was less ridership and things were pared down quite a bit. There's no more questions. Is there a motion to approve the FY23 budget?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That passes. I'd like to make a suggestion for the next agenda item, approval of the NERDA administrator's FY23 salary. We're still working on that. It was Christy and I who were on that team. Now I think it's going to be Don and I, or whoever else wants to do it. Because the switch just happened, we haven't brought her up to speed yet. So we were going to move it to, I believe, 2 weeks from now. That's okay. Paul and I talked about
Yeah,
that.
we'll
And she
see
was
what-
fine with
yeah,
that.
Yep.
Okay.
However that works out with you guys' schedule, we'll do that.
Do we need to make a motion to move that, or is this, we'll just put it on a future agenda, Erica?
It's not a public hearing, right?
Yeah.
So you can just,
Okay, that's what I
Move it.
thought. I always like to check with you.
yeah.
Next up is approval of the FY23 revenue anticipation note.
Yes, so we had 2 bids received for the revenue anticipation note. I will say they are not at last year's rates. We will be borrowing $1.85 million for FY23 operations, and I'm recommending the board vote to approve the note with Cape Cod 5 Savings Bank at a net interest cost of 1.8500% that will be due on May 26, 2023, and have the board authorize the chair and myself to sign the appropriate documents.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 5-0. Thank you, Paula. And now we have an appointment of a NERDA board member to the NERDA's Finance and Audit Committee. I'm happy to do that if you want to keep me doing it or someone else.
Oh, I didn't even take you off the table. You're on till you're
Oh, is it
done.
another one? Oh, it's another one in addition to me. Okay.
No, this is the same one, but you're on it
Oh, I'm
for
on it.
a
Okay.
lifetime, yeah.
So do we need to make a motion or are we just good?
Yeah, I mean, is Dawn? Okay. Wow, I thought this was
That's
going to be
fine, I
the
can do
hard
it.
one. It's only a couple times a year.
Okay, so we need a motion to appoint Jason and Dawn to be the NERDA reps for the select board. That's my motion.
That's good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That passes. Any other business?
I do not tonight.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the NERDA?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you,
Okay, thanks,
Paula.
everybody.
Okay, we'll call to order the select board meeting for May 18th. Call that to order. There's no changes to the agenda. I'll go through the announcements really quick. This meeting is being audio and video recorded. Select board is accepting applications for the annual committee appointments. Information on seats can be viewed. There's a couple in the agenda. There's a couple of links there. Erica reminded me that A through F, so Agricultural Commission all the way to FinCom, applications are due this Friday. Is that correct, Erica? Yep. And then the next,
By noon.
what'd I say?
You
You
just
said
said by
Friday.
Friday, but I think by noon is,
Correct.
yes.
Oh, okay. Yep, by noon this Friday. Okay. And then the next group goes after that.
Yeah, and then the next group are due May 27th, so next Friday at noon.
Okay.
And according to our policy, any applications for that A through F group that comes in after 12 o'clock will not be considered.
Okay. That is understood. All right, the select board is accepting applications to fill a vacant planning board seat. Those are due at noon on May 27th. Applicant review of applications and joint appointment by select board and remaining planning board members to be held June 22nd. Okay. Any select board announcements or comments to start off with? No? Oh,
I'd just like to say that I've been talking a lot with people and encouraging everyone to increase their level of engagement in the community by one step, just a little bit. If everybody does a little bit more engagement in community outreach and participation, imagine what can change on Nantucket. And I just wanted to share that thought.
Thank you, Brooke. Okay, there's no follow-up comments from prior select board meetings. Public comment for any items or topics that are not on this agenda. I see Gary Beller's hand go up.
Shall I speak now? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Gary.
Thank you, Jason. I've met most of you. I haven't met Brooke yet. I hope to meet her this summer. As many of you know, I'm a long-term Nantucket seasonal resident and taxpayer. and I currently serve on 2 town committees, but I'm speaking not on behalf of any of those organizations today, but solely with my own views. And I'd like to provide some thoughts about your discussion last week regarding the annual town meeting, which you all felt went quite well based on your comments, as well as a follow-up to Melissa's comments regarding the work done by the Town Government Study Committee regarding available alternative forms of government. Now, I agree that the meeting this year went smoothly, and that is due to the excellent efforts of so many town officials and administrators whose efforts I commend. But I think that the bar has been set too low, way too low. The annual town meeting is in fact Nantucket's legislative body and is charged under Massachusetts law with the responsibility of enacting or changing the laws under which our island operates. So just imagine for a few minutes if you had heard that the United States Senate had enacted a law making significant changes in voting rights, many of which affected you, but that instead of 100 senators voting on this important legislation, only 12 showed up and voted, and the change went through. Now, I would feel aggrieved, as would most people I know. But that's what happened here in Nantucket last week, when less than 12% of our voters showed up to make the numerous decisions placed before them at the annual town meeting. And as you've seen before, the initial population in attendance dwindles continuously, even though the matters before it may have significant impact on some or even the entire island population. In fact, for the second day of the annual town meeting, with some important and often contentious articles to be voted upon at that session, less than 7% of our registered voters were in attendance. So let me just remind you of the voting totals on a few of the more controversial articles that were voted upon at the recent annual town meeting. Now, these are just a few examples. On hot tubs and spas, just 4% of the island's voting population were in favor of the historic district ban, which then that was good enough for approval. Same thing on fertilizer use. Again, just 4% of the island's voting population were in favor of the ban, which was also enough for approval. And on the article that got most of the headlines, converting all of the island's beaches to allow topless bathing, only 3.4% of the island's voting population voted in favor of the article, and that was enough for approval. Hardly a mandate on any of those issues. So no one should fool themselves in thinking that the island's population is in full agreement with those results. And it portends trouble, possible trouble, for the future of the island if an extremely small number of voters has the ability to undermine what should be a broad consensus of the island voters on important controversial issues. So that's why I urge you to reconstitute a new town government study committee with the sole purpose of exploring possible alternative forms of government that will hopefully allow and enable far greater participation by our island population in the important legislative and administrative decisions affecting all of our lives. Thank you for allowing me to present my thoughts.
Thank you, Gary. Is there any other public comment tonight for items that are not on the agenda? Okay, we can move on. No new business that I know of. Is there approval of minutes, payroll warrants, and treasury warrants? Motion.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That passes 5-0. Approval of pending contracts. We have one. I think there might be somebody here that wants to speak on them. If the pending contract is, hold up. It's a license agreement with ACT Surf School. License for a mobile surf school at Nobody Beach for the 2022 summer season. Anybody here to speak on that? Sure. And Amy's also here. She has her new seat down here.
Just for today.
Perfect. Yeah, so I voiced my opinions to you guys. I think I contact most everyone, sent Melissa an email, just kind of with the concerns for the new contract that I had. I've been running out Nobody Here for about 9 years now, 12 years total of the surf school. There's just a couple things that were in there. I think I spoke with you, obviously, Matt, just about the retail. I've been doing that for a while, have all my stuff, wearing one of the hats. Bought it all for the season. Just found out last week that that was kind of one of the most important things that was in the contract. And I just kind of wanted to see what the movement was on that. Been doing it for years. It's not like I'm walking up and down the beach trying to do it, operate out of the parking lot. Just kind of out on the table. If people want to buy it, they buy it. It's kind of more of like after the surf lesson, the kid buys a hat or the parent, something like that. It's not like it's a huge push. I don't have a tent set up. It's just right where people sign up. I have a couple hats and sweatshirts and t-shirts sometimes.
So could you state your name for the record? I forgot.
Gavin Norton.
Yeah.
Yep, owner.
I know that, but just a
Okay.
procedural. So you said a couple things. So it was a retail, and what else did you?
Retail. The other thing was just the dates of operation. I just want to make sure that it wasn't super strict. That's June 1st to September 30th. If someone calls me next weekend for a surf lesson, I'm available. I want to be able to do it. I just don't want to, impend on any of the contract. The other thing was just 18 years older. There's something that was written in there about the instructor, if he was under 18, had to be supervised, which I wasn't sure what that meant. Everyone from the beach is being watched that's in the water, so it's not like they're really out on their own with nobody else there. The truck's always there. There's always a manager, someone there, which I'm fine with having, someone kind of overseeing it, but everyone is trained through the company that I'm certified through, so everything is kind of safety regulation. So I'm just kind of curious on that. I've never had that part in the contract, so I just want to make sure it wasn't something that an instructor that's under 18 can't be in the water by himself, because most of my guys are 16, 17 years old.
Okay. So here in retail, the 18-year-old limitation or regulation, and then the start date are the three things.
And the other thing was just in the contract, it said that the rent was going to be going up this year, and then next year's rent was proposed to go up. And I was just wondering if it could be one of those things that was more of a 2, 3, 5-year lease. I don't know what we need to bring it to, but I was just wondering if there could be a length on it that could be extended a little bit.
Okay. Does any board members have any questions before we go to Amy for clarification?
No.
Amy, do you want to?
Yep. Thank you. So some background, and the Nobody Here location has traditionally been managed through the Airport Commission, and they still are involved in decisions made on that property, obviously being adjacent to the airport. A few years ago, and forgive me if I don't know the exact details of how this came about, we took management of any leases, any sort of activity on the beach as we do on other town properties. Airport Commission still being involved in voting on certain things at the airport, but the town managing the property. And it's been a couple years. It happened sometime in the middle of the pandemic, so we did a year-by-year situation. When we looked at it initially, we thought, okay, this is a procurement situation. So that's why we did 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. When we finally were able to really kind of look at it in discussions with the finance and procurement director, we understood that the service itself can certainly be licensed. It was below the level that would require procurement. Any sort of retail sales or such, as similar to our other concession areas, would require an RFP or IFB type of procurement situation. So that is the first opportunity we had to look and separate this situation. I'll deal with the retail portion first and why the decision was made. Secondly, again, the definition in our beach regulations is obviously as we're managing any property that the town is managing or has ownership of. And the following activities are prohibited at all beach events or commercial activity at beaches subject to these rules and regulations. the things that we, across all beaches, generators, dance floors, amplified music, and this portion, no person, firm, association, or corporation shall sell, display, store, or maintain any merchandise or wares on a beach, pond, or ancillary area, meaning parking to a beach, pond in the county of Nantucket. That is part of our established beach regulations. Involves transient vendors and such. Another situation that's come up with us is we are constantly asked for a permit to sell goods, as is done on Nobadeer. It has grown a bit over the years, and it's similar to our concerns with display of wares. We in no way wish to discourage his retail sales, which are online as well on his website. We went today to be able to make sure that that was already set up as well. He has a website, he can certainly communicate to the folks, but our concern was establishing the precedent of selling merchandise on our beaches. That is a incredibly slippery slope that's going to go down. We already are trying to push that off daily on people wanting to sell merchandise on those beaches. And it did go on for a while at the airport. Again, their license fees for everything is at $1,500. We looked at it compared also to Cisco and their surf school, which is at $7,500 a year, and is more in the parking area as well. Because I know he does have t-shirts and stuff, but that is land bank managed. And they're working with us to have a similar type of agreement there as well. His other concerns, that the timing, that's fine. I think we just did it based on the timing of this meeting as well. And as far as any safety regulations, that probably came mostly from the harbor master and talking with that and the lifeguards and what would be required for safe operation. But certainly if he has managers and such in that area. We also have had, I talked to those that are on our ATVs at the beach, a lot of issues with the staff and folks parking in that area, which we've had issues with blocking access for ambulances and other such things. So the only thing that should be down there is that trailer. We've kind of gone back and forth on that location because it's very, very slim area. Also in the parking lot area, we no longer have mobile food units or anything of such because the airport commission decided with erosion and other things that the space was just disappearing. So that's kind of the situation in that area. I think I covered all that.
Yeah, we start with the
Okay.
easy stuff. Sounds like the start date could easily be changed.
Yeah,
We didn't do that up a week.
that is not
that's
an
easy.
issue.
18, the 18-year-old stipulation doesn't seem to be a super issue.
I would suggest you check that with your insurance company, because we're
Right.
not allowed to put anyone under 18 on a bread slicer, on a meat slicer,
Yeah.
or handling anything dangerous.
Yeah, they all have to just go through the training that
I would just make
provide.
sure.
Yep.
So that you're not surprised later if something really bad happens.
Yeah, of
And they
course.
say, hey, you had all these young kids, they weren't even allowed to do that.
Yeah.
I would be able to check it.
And the way that it's written that they must be supervised is a little bit unclear. Is that supervised while they're in the water or supervised from the water? So I think that
Yeah.
language just has to be clear to
I can get
demonstrate
that
our
clear.
intent.
Yep.
Which I think is that they must be supervised by somebody
Right.
at all, from shore.
So the only staff member should not be the 17-year-old. You would have
With the
others
client.
with the client.
Oh, okay.
Let me just, I'm writing,
Yeah.
I'm going to follow up with someone who can certainly answer that better
Okay,
than
because
myself.
I take so my son taught surf lessons with, not with
Right.
Gavin,
all right.
unfortunately,
It's
but,
okay.
but greatly with Gary Koner, and I think he started doing it at 15.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there are a lot of young people who are excellent swimmers, excellent surfers, and
Right.
certainly if they have management, senior staff watching them from the beach are more than capable of
Right.
doing those lessons.
Yeah, I'll clarify that. That certainly came from someone's more expertise in that area.
Okay, okay.
So those are the two easy ones. The retail part. What do we?
Before we get to the retail part, could I ask if we
Sure.
just talk about the term of the license?
That was
Like
m-
if it was
That was
year,
number 4
1
for
year?
me, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, because I think this one could be easy, I
Okay.
guess. And so is there a reason why it's limited to just 1 year at a time, or could we consider a three-year term with renewal?
Yep, absolutely. And I think, again,
I will talk into the mic.
are we good?
Mhm.
I think, again, as we were dealing with this in the middle of everything going on, we did it year by year just so that we weren't, we felt like maybe we weren't doing something right. We can just kind of deal with it as we came. I think the proposal that we gave, again, it had been everything they do is the same costs there, 1,500, whether you're 2 exercise classes a week or every single day. So we kind of put some nuance into it. The proposal was, again, comparing it also to Cisco as well, is to not go up that high, but do a tiered level of 3,000 for this year, possible increase next year as well to 4,500, and then 2024 and future fees over the next 2 years, again, with establishment of Parks and Rec management. We have a review period kind of proposed. So that absolutely, that's certainly something we proposed.
Okay. I would think, I mean, with a business that's been established in that location for as long as it has been, not having to go year to year, and certainly coming before this board at this late date before the
Right.
season starts, I think is a challenge. So to have some sense of being able to plan and have some continuity,
Absolutely.
a multi-year license would be,
Are you suggesting at least 2 years?
I would love 3, but I think 2, I would be
I
amenable
think
to
3
2.
is fair.
I feel like you've kind of planned out 2, so
Yep,
nothing really needs to.
Correct. And the only thing that obviously was proposed, and we've talked about this with other licenses too, is doing a 3 to 5 year review, determining if there's any town services that need to be considered, any increase in any sort of fees of that
Yeah.
sense. So I did work in that into the proposal as well. So we can certainly amend that.
Is 2 better than 1, Gavin?
Yeah.
And then we can
Better. Yeah,
time to work on something.
of course.
Yeah, and
Longer for-
again, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
as we
Yeah.
established that at this level, we did not need to require a procurement process. We can certainly have more flexibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another suggestion on that, I think the timing should be, we should be re-upping sort of late fall, early winter. So if someone isn't getting it, they're not purchasing all their stuff and ramping up for the next season. I mean, this should be happening, it shouldn't happen 2 weeks before the season opens. Let's give someone time to know.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, that's my biggest worry is I've bought everything months ago. So
All right, that's a good segue into retail, if you want.
Yeah,
Did you have something else, Amy?
No, as far as the retail too, and again, we're not looking to, get rid of his opportunity to do so, but we need to kind of talk about the display of wares. It certainly had expanded over the years. And then what it says to us as far as, well, this is allowed here. What am I to say to those that want to come and do something similar? So that's my concern, is setting a precedent of some kind. So it really is a display of wares, and setting up really a retail shop on the sand is the concern for us. And based on our regulations, we need to amend those if we do allow it.
Thoughts from the board? Dawn?
It's been operating this way for a number of years, and I think maybe the way to differentiate it is that it's ancillary to what is really a surf school, and it's not just a retail establishment. I think that we do have to be careful about the size of what it is and about it not spilling it all onto the beach area.
yeah,
But I don't think it's really fair to take away something that's been in operation. And I just think that is the important distinction, is that it's completely tied to the surf school.
Yeah.
And that there wouldn't be any retail that would be allowed to operate independently.
it's more or less hats on a table. I mean, I'm dealing with the wind, so most of the time we can't even have them out because the wind blows the t-shirts and sweatshirts away. So it's like 4 or 5 hats. All the guys wear them to keep the sun out of their eyes, and then the kids are like, oh, I want what they have. So I don't have time to set up a shop or like a tent or anything. It's more or less just a couple things here and there. And I don't look to expand on it.
Can I ask a question of Amy? Amy, is I think what I like what you said, Don, and for people who have new ideas and want to sell things on the beach, they also don't have a license to operate a business on one of the beaches currently, correct?
Correct. And again, as I'm looking at a photo of a clothing rack set up on the beach here by the surf vehicle, it's a display, and there should be no clothing racks. There should be no, shirts hanging. It just sets up a precedent there. Certainly have the hats on the table, but again, it's how it grows and the display. It goes against what the regulations state.
Is there a possibility to where we can limit it, whether it's you got to hang it from the van or whatever it is?
Yeah.
So maybe
correct.
not even a table, which you might not like, but at least it might get it there so people can Venmo you, or you can send it to them in the mail, or
Correct.
something like that, where it's not.
And even
trying
pick it
not to
up
go down that
there, that's
slippery
fine.
slope.
Yeah,
Trying to find maybe a.
correct. I think the main concern was the display that had started to creep out again. Certainly have the hats there, and he wants to have that merchandise with him. You know, I can certainly attach it to the license, but it was just concern with what we're dealing with why can they do that and I cannot.
Would it help, Amy, if there was language in there, like no tables, no racks? I mean,
Yes.
that's getting a little too sometimes granular.
Well, no, and in the area, again, I said we've had a problem with staff and other folks parking there and blocking the access. So it needs to be just that vehicle that's needed for the surf school and the rentals and things of that sort, and no ancillary tables or I mean, they're going to need some sort of setup behind it to sign people in and to sign hold harmless waiver, stuff like that. And the hats, that's fine. But again, it had started to spring out. So
Right.
no additional, clothing racks or things of that sort would be appreciated. That would help.
So one quick thing, the clothing racks we use for the wetsuits when they, after we wash them, to hang them up. So that's just the only issue with that. Because it does look like it's like a retail setup, but it's like we use it for all the wetsuits after they get out of the water.
Yeah, any equipment and stuff that's needed as well. And to certainly listen to those at the beach when they ask to move or anything for emergency vehicles.
Yeah, the signage would be huge, because most of the time what happens is when I show up to the beach, if there's good waves, there's 40 cars in the parking lot, and then I'm trying to get people out of the water. So sometimes it looks like it's my staff, but a lot of times it's surfers just pulling up, because all the signs got ripped off except for one that just says vendor parking. So if there was more signage, that would be huge for me. So because I kind of look like the jerk telling people to move their cars. So that would be super helpful for me,
So
for sure.
it
Yeah,
sounds-
we have that on the list.
Okay, so it sounds like there might be a way to do this for retail if it's done really well.
Correct.
You're obviously under a microscope now.
Yeah, of
with
course.
this,
Yeah.
and I get how sometimes things do creep. Even at the handlebar. I got some love letters from the HTC because I had some signs creeped out a little too far. Right?
Yeah.
So I had to pull back. I get it, but if we can have it, whatever you need to put language in there so the retail continues, but it's
The display of wares tends to be where we
it's
get
done.
caught up.
That's the word I'm looking for.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, nicely.
Yes. Yeah.
And Amy, is this, I know that the license for the other surf school is with the land bank,
Correct.
but are they looking towards this as a model to adopt for that
Yes.
operation also? Because I think it's hard for people to understand that the beaches are different. And so if the operations look differently,
Correct.
it also creates a little bit of a disparity.
It does, and we've worked with them over the years, and they're been great to work with, and we always check in with each other on several things because they do come to us when there's liquor and other things involved as well. They didn't have a current contract; they're working on a new one with
Okay.
Gary at the current time, and they responded on some of their important things. He also acts as kind of for stewardship of the area. He's their eyes and ears for the beach. He's their CSO
Yeah.
on ATV as well. So
Yeah.
yes, we put this through procurement and other things, and I think they're going to use some of those terms as well. So they tend to be more restrictive than we are in some cases, but we do work together to be consistent.
So for the length of time for operation, do there need to be start dates and end dates? Does it need to be, May 1st through October 15th or something? How does that need to?
We can amend that. May 1st is certainly easy to do, and something, any extension or earlier beginning would have to come to the town to amend if there's any other conditions.
Okay.
If we, you have a summer that ends usually in October and it's warm till November, you deal with that as it comes. But yeah, that would be fair.
So we are okay with adding some of that language of retail stays, changing the start date.
Right.
Is there anything else that length the contract 2 years? Just trying to think about what we're voting on.
To vote on the terms and conditions as presented with the amendments as discussed, which would extend the term of the license, allow for retail sales in a, as we amend as far as display of wares.
Minimal way, yeah.
Yeah, minimally. I know. I'm missing the word myself in my head. and, adding the additional conditions, signage and such to help with the, help the vendor. So,
And the clarification on the supervisory of
Right,
18 years and younger staff members.
I'm not worried about that from the town's perspective. I'm
Yeah.
worried about it from their perspective.
For sure.
Yep.
And talking with Gavin, I felt really confident that he's trained, he trains his staff, and he's insured properly. So, I don't know that the town needs to necessarily insert themselves, other than the fact that we want
Right.
people to be safe.
Right.
And then when we re-up this after 2 summers, it should be late fall, early winter.
Yeah.
So whoever, so
exactly.
we has a chance, so everyone has a chance to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
And with those, I'll make a motion to approve those
Second.
stipulations.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Norton.
Thank you.
Have a good summer.
Thank you.
Okay, pending contracts are through. Thank you. Good discussion there. Okay, on to Citizen Department Committee request, resignation acceptance.
I won't be voting on this one.
You sure? Why not? Affordable Housing Trust, Council for Human Services, and Contract Review Committee.
With happiness that Mrs. Moore is here, not there, I will vote to approve that. Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes 4-0.
And thank you for all your work on that
Yeah,
to
thank you,
date,
Brooke.
Brooke.
My pleasure, completely.
Okay, next up, Housing Office, request for approval and execution of a regulatory agreement declaration of restricted covenants for owners in Benjamin Drive. Hi, Tucker.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Tucker Holland, Housing Director. I can keep this really brief. This is the standard regulatory agreement to ensure that the 3 units, in this case, that Habitat for Humanity is creating in Benjamin Drive, remain affordable in perpetuity. So this is a tri-party agreement between the town, DHCD, and Habitat, and it has been reviewed by Town Council as well as DHCD, and it's really ready to go with your approval.
Okay, any questions?
Move approval?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Tucker.
Dawn hadn't even gotten her microphone yet, but she did say aye. I heard.
I heard it. I saw
I
her
know,
the
I
mouth
know.
move. Yeah.
That's what we were laughing about, though.
Request for road name change. South Myakama Avenue out in Cisco will now become Fairhaven Avenue.
I'm going to lead you through this, and we do have Attorney Stephen Cohen online too, who's representing the requester. South Myakama Ave is out in the Cisco area, and it gets continuously confused with the various roads and areas named Myakama, such as Myakama Road, Myakama Ave, West Myakama Road, Myakama Park, and just all things like that. And they've had issues with deliveries. They're worried about public safety, finding their house. This property is the only property on the road that uses the South Myakama address. There is one other parcel, very small parcel on the road, but it's owners unknown. And we are in favor of this request.
It's a safety issue, really. Public
Yes.
safety issue. Okay.
And I would note too that the Fairhaven Avenue is in keeping with some of the other kind of areas around New Bedford that those roads were named after. So it seems like it's very much in keeping. And I've checked with the assessor as well as the deputy chief about the E911, and they're both okay with it.
Everybody okay?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Cohen, for being here. It's approved. Thanks. Okay, Nantucket Boys and Girls Club annual request for waiver of the town noise bylaw from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. for the Tim Russert Summer Groove. That is on August 20th. Any problems with that or questions?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Was that aye? Yeah, I saw your hand move there, Matt.
That's a yes.
Yeah, that passes 5-0. Okay, we're on to our 14 public hearings. Stepping up for number 1 is we're going to open a public hearing to consider amending commercial landfill user fee schedule for fiscal year 2022. I think we have Mr. Turbot on here to walk us through this.
We do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So before you, you have a request to consider raising the landfill fees. The last time, as I noted in the AIS, that they were raised was during fiscal 2019. They were raised by 2%. We're proposing raising them 6%, which we took the average actually between July and December of CPI, and it was just right around 6%. During fiscal 20 and 21, internally, we made a decision, given the uncertainties with COVID, to leave the rates as they had previously been approved in 2019. Costs certainly are continuing to rise at the landfill, so we're proposing to raise these, as I mentioned, by 6%. So, I mean, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian?
I have a question. I always bring this up every time we do this. We ratchet fees, some fees, and I always ask, are we looking at any other fees? You know, sometimes it seems like we go back to the same well every time. Are we looking at other places to go cost of living as well?
We do look at fees. I won't necessarily say globally, but on a case-by-case basis. And since I've become involved with this fee, in conjunction with the DPW, we've looked at it on a more annual basis. Do I look at every fee annually? No, Matt, I don't. We probably should convene and start looking at some of the other fees on a more consistent basis, which we can do.
Your comments on this particular fee?
Yeah, I'll vote for that. I was gonna abstain out of protest because I feel like we do the same thing every time. We say we're gonna look at them, we'll look at them. We've got some other places that, and the reason I'm saying this, we did sewer fees and we left them for 30 years and we didn't change them. And then when we changed them, everyone was upset. And when we changed them to the level they were 30 years ago, and people were upset. So I think that we should be looking at a lot of these fees and doing them a little bit every year rather than, sort of ignoring them and hitting only certain people. So there's my plea.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any hands up from the public. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve the new fees.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes 5-0. Okay, public hearing number 2. We're going to open the public hearing to consider increasing town and Nantucket taxi rates. Okay, this is request from April 6th. So there's a lot in the packet. There's a lot of numbers and a lot of, I got lost in them for a little bit. Well, not this one and that one, but where would we like to start? Any board members? Brooke?
So I'd like to ask the proponent of this how they got to the numbers they got versus an across-the-board percentage increase, which is what the folks in the airport had recommended.
Mhm.
So I'm just curious about the logic of the difference in arriving at the increases.
Is anybody here to talk about your strategy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Stan Pablo for the record.
Stan.
Basically, we're currently requesting the tax rate increase in light of the record inflation and the immense rise of island cost of living. The airport rates, on average, the proposal will be 5% premium on top of the town rates for pretty much the same distance. The motivation for that, it's pretty simple. One, $400 for airport fee for taxis to line up there, which may sound reasonable, but on average in the last 10-15 years, only half of the taxi owners are getting that license. So for us, it's on the expensive side. Number two, which is even more important, the horrendous traffic on Old South, inbound and outbound. 10 years ago, probably was taking 10-15 minutes less during high season, somebody to be dropped off downtown or beyond, Cliff area, Nantucket. So we think those 5% premium for the airport pickups in comparison with the town pickups are more than justified.
I mean, that makes sense about Old South Road, right, compared to 10 years ago.
Yeah, and people would say there is traffic in town. Yes, there is. But outbound, it's literally no traffic. But going to the airport, inbound and outbound, it's constant from like 8 in the morning till 6. So we think 5% premium, it's justified for that.
Thank you on the airport. Did you mean more of like, why wasn't everything just increased 20%
Yeah,
versus
and
30 and
yeah,
20 and?
Yeah, so I understand the premium differential between the two
Yep,
and a
yep.
difference between the airport rates and the other rates, but
The other motivation, so some of the rates, like airport Nantucket is probably the best example. You go through every busy intersection. As we know, no traffic lights. So hitting every busy intersection to go to Nantucket. So basically that rate didn't really make sense. Distance-wise, we get it. It's 6 miles, but time-wise, it takes easily 40-45 minutes during the summer. So our idea was like trying to fix some of the rates because of the traffic mid-island. So if you take a look closely at the percentage, the ones like Sconset will win it. Those are like 19-20% increase. Obviously, because you're avoiding the busy intersections. But the ones with the busy intersections, they're going like 35 to 40%.
that's very helpful. Thank you.
Sorry, with the percentage changes? I just wanted so the public can see it. If that's what you're referring to, a 40% versus 20. I think the explanation makes sense to me. This is a public hearing, so is there any public comment? Now is the time. And board members, you can ask questions or. Matt?
Yeah, how do these compare to Uber rates or Uber on surge? And did you do that analysis?
I mean, we definitely, we kind of want to be conservative with the taxi rates increase because of the rideshare services. It's quite different because they don't pay rates. I mean, they don't pay those fees we do. They do get paid by the time, so they kind of benefit with the traffic. We don't. We're not charging anything extra.
Right.
So I think basically, as of right now, I mean, we've been cheaper the last couple of years, no doubt about that. Right now, we're still cheaper with the new increase because I think I heard they just increased their rates too. Without surging, it's about the same for two people. Obviously, we're not surging. They have surging rates. So that's our idea, to be more competitive with the same, pretty much same rates.
Matt?
Was there any consideration of sort of rates for older people or off-season rates? So people who are on fixed incomes and are relying on it? Was there any talk of that? Because if it is a time issue, a summertime time issue, is there a way to finesse that?
We definitely, I mean, we have $2 discount for senior residents. The other thing we can do, I think it's because we're introducing a booking fee of the airport for reservations and of the ferry. The whole idea of the booking fee is just to make it available for the people that actually want to reserve a taxi. I think it's reasonable and it's right if you waive that fee for senior residents.
Melissa?
Along that line with the booking fee, I think the airport had some comments about the booking fee at the airport being more expensive than the ferry. Can you explain that justification?
Correct. That's a great question, Ms. Murphy. The idea is, although they're stating 70-something% of the flights on time, it doesn't include actually the time where passengers are getting out of the airport, picking up their luggage. I would say usually, by my judgment, it takes 15-20 minutes. On the big jets, not Cape Air flights, obviously, to get out of the airport, 15-20 minutes on average.
Okay.
So that's the idea, being $12. Not only that, the airport is not really close to town with the outbound and inbound traffic. So somebody got to go most likely from downtown for a reservation at the airport.
Right.
That's our consideration for the $12 fee of the airport. Only when people want to make a reservation, when they're willing to pay extra for a specific taxi company to wait for them.
As opposed to just going outside and
Exactly.
waiting for whatever's available. Understood. Okay.
I had something else to think through. I understand why the cleanup fee, that's what it's called, why it's there. I see maybe some issues with implementing it. I don't want to put something in there where you're arguing and, you know, it's not like the Ubers where they can just charge the card, right? It's in that system. So can you just talk a little bit more how you feel that won't be a problem?
Okay, yeah, so we put down accidental cleaning fee. Obviously, we're talking about bodily fluids, like either people throwing up or
Yep.
even like dogs being pooping or throwing up in the taxi. The idea is we never had that cleaning fee. So actually not having it in the regulations, it's a bigger concern when it actually happens in the taxi.
Mhm.
We have no legal grounds to get
Right.
paid for that. And basically taxi is out of service for an hour or even more. We have no legal grounds to charge anything for that.
Yep.
People say sorry and getting out. By having it in the regulations, actually, it will help us to enforce it if we could. Most people are nice over here, as we all know. You know, it's going to help our community if we have it in the regulations.
Yeah. Does everybody feel okay with the cleaning fee?
I do feel okay with it. However, I would love if we could add some description of what we're talking about charging $150 for, because I understand that you're really responsible and you're saying bodily fluid or pet waste, something like that, but there may be another driver who says, man, you got crumbs all over my car. That's $150. So I'm trying to figure out how, it can be, served to people a little bit more equitably. Could you add some language in parentheses that says?
It's a great point, Ms. Murphy. Yes, I think we should put down accidental cleaning fee, bodily fluid or pet waste.
I think that would be a really nice descriptor so that it's really clear what you're being charged for.
We're not talking about spilling wine.
That's right.
Or
Right.
a cocktail.
Right.
Or
I mean,
breadcrumbs.
certainly if you wanted to
Yeah.
include wine or
Yeah.
cocktail, I would
No.
understand that too. But, I'm thinking about, like my kid is in the cab eating
Yeah.
chips and, some crumbs fell and, a burnt out driver saying, man, now I have to vacuum. That's $150. And I'm not suggesting anybody would do that, but
No, that's
I
not
think
the
some
idea.
clarification would be nice.
We're not trying to, piss people off.
Of course.
Just, we should definitely, whatever is a pet waste or body fluids.
Yep. I think that's a good suggestion to add that.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Erica?
No, I was just
Okay.
going to say I can include that language when
Okay.
if
Okay.
you vote for this.
So my only other thought is, I feel it's been very thought through. Yep, these haven't been raised in a while. Every question tonight, you got a really good answer of the process and the strategy of why you raised those rates. So I like that. The off-season thing, in January, February, and March, there isn't that much traffic, but the rates are still the same for year-rounders. And so I don't know if it makes sense to do an off-season rate or.
Unfortunately, there is no demand of season for taxi
Right.
rides.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. I wish we were a year-round destination, but we're not. That's why I would say on average, half of the taxis are now on the road all season.
Okay.
Just because between insurance, maintenance of vehicles, and having a driver, it's not paying off.
Yep.
Yeah. And obviously now fuel.
Yep.
Add that to it.
So another great answer. Thanks, Dan. This is a public hearing. Any other comments on this? Any other questions for, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, come on.
Thank you. Come
Yeah.
up to the mic and say your name, please.
Hi, my name is Therese Price. I just wondered if we should put blood-borne pathogens in with the bodily fluids and the pet waste, because that's something you have to follow OSHA regulations when you clean that. And I had that once happen with somebody just started bleeding all over the cab. And I knew from where I worked before how to take care of it, but I don't know if that makes a difference for you guys, if we should put that in there.
To me, that's under bodily fluids, but
Is it all under bodily fluids?
to me
I thought
it
it was
is, but-
specific.
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
But I appreciate that.
Thank you. I just
extra
didn't know if it
attention
had
to
to be
the-
more
yeah,
specific.
no.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I think a lot of taxi drivers could write books on some of the things
None of us
they've
would.
seen and been a part of. Matt?
Do we have to keep calling it that?
What's that?
What Melissa Murphy amendment?
No, I think bodily fluid's way better.
All right.
Any other thoughts, questions on this?
No, I agree with you, Jason. This was really well thought out and well presented, and I'm in support of it. So,
Okay, we'll thank the airport too for
yeah, absolutely.
doing their work on it. So we have to motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good, that motion carries.
And a motion to approve the taxi rate increase as amended during our discussion this evening.
Second.
And the amendment only being the bodily fluids
That's
and
correct.
pet waste.
That's right. Thank you.
Somebody,
Who
I
seconded?
said second.
okay,
Okay.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes 5-0. Thank you for doing all that work, Stan and company. Okay, public hearing number 3. We're going to open that to consider application to alter the premises of a seasonal all alcohol beverage hotel license for Nantucket Island Management LLC DBA Walnut Inn.
Can we, as we start this, Erica, can we put up the public hearing process document if possible? So welcome, Brooke. I throw you into the deep end of the pool with this tonight. So I will try to add some commentary to kind of walk you through some of these things. What we're putting up here is the general liquor license process required by law and how this goes. Obviously, we're just opening the public hearing, reviewing pending applications. We have, you know, the whole gamut tonight. We do have alteration of premises and several new licenses. So it's important to understand kind of the things that we address, and I will answer any questions as far as policy, procedure, or law as we go. We take public comment, making a decision to approve or deny. In each AIS with each application, I line out what you're supposed to consider when considering these licenses. Per the law, as far as appropriateness of the liquor license, number of existing dispensaries in town, views of the inhabitants, traffic, noise, size, sort of operation that carries a license, reputation of the applicant. Anytime we approve or deny, we need to base it on one of those areas too as well. And I'll go over kind of that process as we get into each one. We also have to make a determination if any of these liquor licenses fall within the 500 feet of a school or church is determined by the abutters list that they receive from the assessor's office. You need to make a determination that the liquor license is not detrimental to the activities of the school or church or religious institution nearby. So that is the basic of that process. So we can go into our first one. The first hearing here is.
One second
Yeah,
before
go
we
ahead.
go, I have to recuse from all but Nantucket Inn. So I'm going to step aside.
Okay.
Call me back in from Nantucket Inn.
Okay.
Walnut?
Yep, our first hearing, this is a pretty straightforward administrative function for the Walwinnet. They are making an adjustment to their premises, which is basically for secure liquor storage on the property. We need to identify all areas of storage as well as areas of service for a liquor license. Pretty straightforward. They've met all the application requirements, and I believe their attorney here, Brian Swain, is here if there's any questions, but it's pretty straightforward, and I commend them for being proactive in this area.
Thank you. Brian?
Thank you.
Sure. Hi, for the record, Brian Swain, attorney for the applicant. This is just an application to add a secured storage area as part of the licensed premises. Anytime alcohol is stored anywhere, it has to be considered part of the licensed premises, and that's a description that's printed on the liquor license itself. What this application does is adds a storage shed on the property as part of the licensed premises to allow it to be stored therein.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Are there any comments? Anybody remotely or here? Any questions for Brian? Oh, sorry. No, I'm sorry. You have to walk up here to the microphone. I know. That's tough.
No, you have to come to the mic. And please state your name. for the record.
Jesse Harvey. I was just wondering, are you building a whole new building for this? No, it's, okay, because I live in Walwyn, just wondering if you're adding
Sure.
on to it, you know, where it's gonna go.
Thank you.
The answer to that is no, it's an existing structure on the property, so it's just including that particular structure as part of the licensed premises.
Yeah, so it's more a formality. It's within there. They have to do it because of the,
If you were adding a whole new building or a shed
No.
or whatever.
no,
Okay.
it's actually making it more secure. Brooke?
I'm just curious about the security on remote, on outbuilding storage of liquor, just in terms of,
Sure. It's only accessible by the employees. There's no access to it by anyone who doesn't work for the company. The public can't go in and handle any of the alcohol, so only entered under the constructive possession of the Wallwinnet Inn.
thanks.
Okay. Any other comments? Is there a motion? Dawn, you're going to be my motion.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Right. The public hearing is closed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. All right, number 4, open a public hearing to consider an application for new seasonal all alcohol beverage hotel license for BPC Management, DBA The Brant, located on 6 and 8 North Beach Street and 4 Dolphin Court.
Right.
You gonna
Okay,
start
great.
us? Yeah.
Yep, I'll
Okay.
start you off and have them explain their operations. This is new ownership of this property. There is not a previous liquor license at this location. It's going to consist of, from their description, 4 structures within the premise of the 6 North Beach, 8 North Beach, and 4 Dolphin Court, Nantucket, with, I believe, is a total of 23 guest rooms. There's 8 guest rooms on 3 levels at 6. 8 guest rooms at 8 North Beach, and 8 guest rooms on 3 levels at 4 Dolphin Court. They have a barn, also another building with 2 guest rooms, communal area, bar, lounge, lockers, and workspace. What the request is for a liquor license for a service in the rooms in these areas. It's not a public area. There won't be a public restaurant. They're only serving breakfast to their guests. So they are just asking for the hotel liquor license for that. Based on some things I've gotten from them, I think we will probably have to go for a local entertainment license at a point. They wish to possibly do some acoustic and background music and such for their guests. So that may require an additional, but that's local and we can handle that. This would be for the liquor service at those locations. And I believe there might be additional construction or addition in the future that would require certainly coming back to the board for amendments if it is approved. Okay.
Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Amy. Mr. Chair and members of the board, Michael Wilson on behalf of your applicant, BPC Manager LLC. I have on the Zoom Brian Chason, who's the managing member of that LLC, as well as Mr. David Bowd, who is going to be the local manager for the day-to-day operations. He is also on Zoom. As Ms. Baxter related, it is for the premises located at 6 and 8 North Beach Street and 4 Dolphin Court. This was previously owned and operated by Thea and Pete Kaiser. It's the Brant Point Inn property. As Ms. Baxter has laid out, it's a only patron license for an innkeeper. This is not to be open to the public. There's no public bar. There's no plan to have anything of that nature. Because of the construction phasing, the barn component is not going to be constructed this summer. That will start construction in the fall for the season 23. So this will apply to just the courtyard area where the barn will ultimately be built, and the 3 structures themselves, the 6, 8, and 4 Dolphin Court, where the guest rooms will be, and the check-in area at the 4 Dolphin Court building itself, which would be sort of the common area where you check in for your getting your room key and whatnot.
Okay. Any questions for Amy or Mr. Wilson?
So it's going to be, excuse me, outdoors this year, and then there'll be a building next year? Is that?
The plan is that the courtyard area in between the 3 structures that exist over the course of this winter will benefit from a new construction, which is a clubhouse, common facility for the guests. There's also 2 rooms. One of them is handicap accessible room, or a more styled room toward that use in that building. but the construction phase could not happen for that, for this season. So that's anticipated for next season.
But
So if there's
the
any-
liquor service will be outdoors.
in the courtyard,
Yeah,
in the common areas of the guest reception, and the hotel rooms themselves.
okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other comments, thoughts? One quick one. What's the time on this? Does this go to 1 a.m.? Is this just refresh my memory?
So as far as liquor laws, generally liquor license is allowed up until 11 p.m. and then after that is up to the local licensing authority to amend or agree to. But again, it is not going to be open to the public, but 1 a.m.
Right.
would be the
Yep. Okay.
would be the end. Yeah.
Melissa, do you have something? Thought you were.
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there any public comment on this? Don't see any. Any other questions?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I will second it.
Any more discussion? Was that me? Not sure what that was. Any more discussion?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess I will just say that I do have some concern about, I'm pleased to hear that it's just for guests, but I really struggle with adding additional liquor service in town, particularly with outside service in the courtyard. This seems to be well thought out and well managed, and they'll have to come back for a new license when the facility is built. So in general, I feel like this year we can see how it goes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say I have the same concerns about service outdoors. And I mean, is it reasonable to limit it to indoors? Or,
It's not the motion, but you can make a,
Yeah.
you can make it friendly or.
Can I answer process-wise?
Sure.
Certainly, the board can make conditions or limit, and certainly outdoor service is certainly one of the issues that you can certainly make amendments to.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I would propose an amendment to just service indoors.
Can I ask a question? How many rooms was this again?
I think 26 would be the total, correct?
26
Once
rooms.
construction's done, over 4 buildings.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Could I suggest respectfully, if you give them the opportunity this summer, if you take a look at the credentials of the manager who will be overseeing day-to-day operations and his experience, if you are inclined to limit the outdoor, which we envision Adirondack-style chairs sitting around tables, this is not a dinner service, this is not something that's going to carry on into the wee hours of the morning, would you consider the outdoor shut down at 11 p.m., which we wouldn't expect anybody to be outside beyond that point in any event. But if that is the concern, we will be back next year once this 4th building is built. To be clear, it is just the 3 residential structures that exist and the courtyard area that's in the middle.
Thank you. Normally we don't, once you close the public hearing, but because there was an amendment, some changes, I think it's appropriate and it makes sense. I'm okay with outside if there's a time limit. I think that is more.
I agree.
That's more what I was asking for.
Yeah.
I brought it up to see how everybody felt about the time.
I would amend my motion for outdoor service until 10 p.m.
To go with the noise.
I'm
bylaw.
sorry?
I was saying to go with the noise
Yes,
bylaw.
to mirror the noise bylaw.
Sure, I'll second that.
Okay, so the motion is to approve this with a 10 p.m. cutoff for service.
Outdoors.
Outdoor service.
Outdoor service. Indoor
Thank you.
could go on. Okay,
Yes.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Okay, public hearing number 5. I'm just going to keep doing that.
Great.
We'll open a public hearing to consider application for new seasonal common victualler and all alcohol beverage hotel license for Nantucket Inn. Matt, you coming back for this one? Okay, Amy?
Great. So the applicant here is the new management team for the Nantucket Inn at 1 Miller Lane. So it's a little different. I don't know if we've dealt with many management agreements thus far. The property was purchased by VTT Nantucket Inn LLC from the previous licensee. The application provides for management of the property by Scout Hotel and Resort Management LLC. There is an allowance in liquor licenses for a management agreement for someone who's actually managing the property and responsible for the liquor license. So that's a slight difference there. I'll have them explain their operations, I believe, at this point to be similar to previous years. And I think some construction or renovations will come later for next year, but being similar to the setup of the previous owner for the rooms, restaurant, and for any special events at the location.
Clarifying question. I know you sent some emails and I read from questions we had this morning, but I didn't get to read those. It says hotel license, but there's different, some is just for the clients, some is for the public.
Correct. And I think maybe the first question I saw was what's the difference between innkeeper and hotel? I think maybe sometimes it's said innkeeper. The ABCC has it now as hotel, just as a descriptive term. So sometimes it is just for room service, depending on the innkeeping or service to guests. In this case, they are a common vicular with a hotel all alcoholic beverages license, which provides for preparation of food on site and seating and service to the public on site as well, and an entertainment license because they do special events and have entertainment there as well. So it's a common vicular as well for the public restaurant.
Thank you, Amy.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Hi, for the record, Brian Swain, attorney for the applicant. And I'm here with Sean Scioto, the manager of the liquor license and general manager of the Nantucket Inn. As Amy said, this is a management agreement. And what that entails really is that the owner owns the building and the management company does everything else. They do the staffing, they do the payroll, they oversee the daily operation, they hire people, they do the coordinating with the vendors, that type of stuff. So it's really all managed by the management company. The owner just owns the building. And this is done as a formality matter. The Nantucket Inn, it's historically been licensed. There's never been any problems with it. The applicant is not seeking to make any alterations to it immediately. The goal is to reanimate it so that they have the same exact licenses that the previous license holder had. Same with the entertainment, which is the subsequent hearing to this. And if there were to be any alterations, we come back to the select board, the zoning board, the planning board, and get whatever relief was necessary to make any future alterations. This particular hotel serves a vital need for both year-rounders and guests. It's one of the last typical hotel experiences that can accommodate a lot of people, and your average traveler can go and stay there at an affordable rate. The restaurant also welcomes members of the public. They have a very great brunch on Sundays that I go to with my parents. It's open to everyone. It's a family-friendly restaurant. And again, we're here to ask the board to reanimate the licenses that were previously granted to the new applicants. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have, and Sean can speak to the daily operation.
Thank you, Mr. Swain. Any questions, comments? Yep, go ahead.
I just noted what seems to be a discrepancy on the, is the entertainment?
Yeah, it's the next one.
Sorry,
Yep.
never mind.
Yep.
Sure.
Hold that thought.
So, jumping ahead. Yeah.
Yep, sorry.
It is a public hearing. Any comments from the public here or remotely? Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Don and Melissa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed.
Motion to approve the license.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 5-0. Thank you. We'll open public hearing number 6 is for the entertainment license for the Nantucket Inn.
Okay. Erica, do we have the former entertainment license in the packet? I can't pull it up on mine for some reason. Tuck it in.
So the liquor license before was pretty much replacing what was already there.
Correct.
And then this is
Correct.
maybe not the same.
No, this is entertainment license, and I have here similar to what was before, and a similar, this is the existing liquor license, for the previous ownership. And I don't believe there's any difference that they're asking for. It is a live entertainment. They have events, special events and things such there, disc jockey dancing, amplification there, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. Was a all-encompassing entertainment license. So it's a similar application to operate. And I can comment on that as well.
You had Brian?
Sure. I think Amy said
Yeah.
pretty much
Okay.
what
Same.
we're going for.
Brooke?
So now it's time for my
Now's your
question.
question.
So I noticed the occupancy of the ballroom is 150, and you're asking for an entertainment license for under 100 people. And I just wanted to ask about that discrepancy.
Sure.
Was it the occupancy thing? When 100 is the level, and we have some that we keep low because of certain fire code regulations, that they're only allowed to have certain numbers in an entertainment license, and that hits at 100. That we have that at Charlie Noble and a couple other places as well. So the entertainment with live entertainment would be at 100.
So if you had
Then it becomes a nightclub license.
right, so if you had a speaker during the day, you could have 150 people there, but for
Right.
entertainment.
Correct. There's fire code things that trigger at that point, as far as things with the fire alarm, and when you add alcohol with liquor and elevated noise, occupancy is one of those things.
Yeah, so even though it can hold 150 people under those circumstances, they'd be limited to 100.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
great.
Yes.
Thanks.
Any other comments from the board? This is a public hearing. Any comments from the public? John?
Motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, have a great season. Okay, we're going to open public hearing number 7. We're going to consider application for a new annual common victualler with wine and malt beverage restaurant license for Nan Taco AC LLC, DBA Nan Taco. This is Cindy Milazzo, manager, located at 21 South Water Street.
Yes, hold on. It's out of order there. Great. So I'm going to need some probably photos to describe this. As you mentioned, Nan Taco AC LLC at 21 South Water, which is adjacent to the surf shop there at that location. I think we had the sushi location there, takeout. So looking for a common vicular, which is food service. We have some great photos here of what the proposal is. They're proposing for a beer and wine license. There are a few seats inside. Obviously, there's still the surf shop there too as well. And then also asking for outdoor dining on the sidewalk, adjacent with Rose and Crown there as well. They have worked with Rose and Crown as well on the setup and the flow, so that would be in line. There is appropriate spacing as well. And again, we mentioned there would be several seats indoors. I think the question earlier today was on number of seats. The limit is under 25. At 25, we get health regulations and bathrooms required, so it would be under that number. They're also proposing in the off season, moving those outdoor seats indoors to continue service on an annual basis when the retail shop is closed. So they would have the same amount of seats, but able to provide year-round service at that location as well.
So total is 25, inside out. however they
Under,
wanna-
it's just under that. Because at that point, it would require, and they certainly are aware of, if they were going to increase it, even in the off season, they would have to get further review for that.
Okay.
So it would require, obviously, our approval of use of the town sidewalk, but there are a couple seats indoors as well. Okay.
Melissa?
I had a question, Amy. Is the service primarily takeout like it was with, say, the most recent with the sushi and ramen shop? And I guess my question about that is how patrons are lining up and going possibly into the street, and then there's seating. and congestion and pedestrian traffic. That's a really busy sidewalk. So I'm just a little concerned about how that flow.
Absolutely,
will
and
go.
I'm going to have the owner and the manager get up and explain that as well. We've certainly had many of those conversations as well, as far as his plan and what the considerations are there too as well. I know a couple other points too, as far as, and I'll have him address too, when they would obviously stop. Alcohol service would be earlier, and also the request is on the common vicular side for takeout, is if they would be allowed to serve until 2 a.m. just the food for takeout, as we do on Lower Broad Street, those facilities there too as well, but they would stop alcohol earlier than that, and I'll have Lee address his operation plan.
Mr. Milazzo?
All right. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the board. Amy summed it up really well. Oh, Lee Milazzo with Nan Taco. Yeah, a couple things. Just beer and wine. We would stop serving at 8. As far as, Melissa, your question with congestion. So our feeling is during the day, we would be like any other restaurant on Nantucket, corner table, or, where we'll have a little bit of a lunch rush. We don't anticipate a line during the day. We intentionally built out the space. When it was Sushi Sean, you walked right in and there was a counter. And so we've moved that counter at least halfway back. So we can accommodate, we figure comfortably about 15 to 18 people inside the restaurant. Okay. The other thing is, one of the reasons we conceived Nan Taco is, other than the fact there are no taco restaurants in the downtown area, it's a very limited menu, 6 tacos, 1 bag of chips, one size. In the morning, it's 1 breakfast burrito, 1 size cup of coffee. So it's quick. We want to move people through as quickly as possible. There won't be lattes. There won't be, questions on sizing. So that's how we plan to kind of manage any congestion morning, afternoon. If we find that we start getting busy at 7, we would take those tables and chairs out of the way if a line formed on the sidewalk. We would take those stanchions that I had in the photo and just move those 3 feet from the curb so that people can line up. The curb currently from that last photo. Oh yeah, there you go. From the building to the stanchion right there is about 8 feet, leaving 2 feet for a line. If you go to the photo before that or after, I'm not sure. Yeah, that's good. So the tables and chairs right now show 4 feet, which leaves over 6 feet from the tables and chairs to the building. So you can see we took some photos with just normal people walking back and forth to show that there was plenty of room for not only pedestrians, but wheelchair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if the line comes, starts to form, but there are people sitting at the tables, I guess I'm just wondering where everyone's going to go. We've had issues with pedestrian traffic going out into the street, and we just absolutely can't have that here. So that would be a concern. I guess it's hard to know because we don't have a year of operations under the belt yet, right?
I wish every new restaurant had the problem of what is going to happen when everybody on Nantucket wants to go there at once. Yeah. But I understand. I mean, it's something that we've thought about from the very beginning. It's been, how do we move people through really quickly, and how do we accommodate enough people inside so that they're not on the sidewalk waiting? Mm-hmm. We intentionally have set it up so that you go up to the counter, you order, you get your food, and you leave. Mm-hmm. There was a suggestion of people sitting out on the street and then coming out and saying, Amy, your order, we have no intention of doing that because we don't want people standing around like, a late night stubby situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you offer online ordering also?
Maybe eventually, yeah. But and if we did that, we'd considered doing the online pickup on the back street.
Got you.
so that we
Okay.
wouldn't have the congestion.
Gotcha.
Congestion.
Okay.
It's been my top line priority to make sure that the street is not, it isn't crowded, isn't blocked, that it's just kind of like a Rosencrown situation where people can have a taco, a beer. We move people in and out as quickly as possible. And if we're so popular that a line forms, we'll accommodate. My wife and I've had a business on the island for 8 years on Center Street, Samuel Owen Gallery. So, and part of the reason that we decided to open Nan Taco is when our youngest graduates high school, we want to live here year round. We want this to be a year-round business that, can become a part of the community. So I guess I bring that up because we're as mindful as everybody else is that, we don't want to come in for 3 months, open a restaurant and then get out of town. We want to, we live here too.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? This is a public hearing. If there's any public comment?
Oh, I'm
Oh, sorry, Melissa.
I just one other quick question, I think for Amy. What is the start time for alcohol service? Is it 11 a.m.?
That's Sunday, 8 a.m.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
8 a.m. and then Sundays, 11 a.m. We could amend it as early as 10 a.m. on Sundays, but right now it's 11.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have to say, just in working with them, certainly at first I thought, I don't know how this can work. And they have been incredibly responsive and working. And, we didn't want to rely completely on the outdoors. So to have some seats indoors as well in a plan for the off season. So, in working with the Rosencrown too, as well next door, that it flows as well. So that they have been incredibly responsive and working and having backup plans should it become that popular and we need to make adjustments. I feel they're prepared and certainly responsive enough in that area, I found.
It would
Thank
seem
you.
like there might need to be some staff to help if a line, that would need to jump
Yeah.
out and help manage
Correct.
the line outside. So I think just having that understanding, and I know staffing's difficult this year anyway, but that would be something that would be important to me to be assured of.
Similar to the juice bar, how they
Exactly.
brought staff.
Correct.
They were trying to figure that out last couple of years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Correct. And just to add, the outdoor seating, and we'll get to this a little bit later too, would have a similar type of sidewalk license that we're providing for the others, which can be revoked by the select board should there be issues as well. So that would be
Okay.
handled on a separate permit as well.
Okay.
Anything else, Melissa?
No, thank you, Jason.
Go ahead. Come on up.
Hi,
I had to state your name for the record.
Annie Teasdale,
Hi, Annie.
and I am an abutter at Annie and the Teas. And I have quite a few concerns. So one by one is if they have a liquor license, are they having servers come outside? Or do you take your wine and beer out and open it yourself, uncork it? So that's one concern. My second concern is it's a really congested sidewalk as it is, and that it's a really high traffic and that you are blocking people. There's trees, there's tables, you're gonna have lines, but they are gonna block the sidewalk. I've been there for 30 years and I know the different streets very well, and South Water Street is one of the busiest in town. And my worry is that it is going to block. That's the street people walk. They don't go on the other side. And we already have a trash problem. So that's a big concern. My other concern, which they just mentioned, is they may have pickup out back eventually. I have parking, which is nonstop blocked, which I've brought to meetings numerous times, is I can't get in and out. And people are always like, oh, we'll just be a minute. Not to be unneighborly or anything to you, but these are things I have to deal with back there. And I have trash, I have this and that. But as far as them having liquor, it brings a whole new crowd. I have a lot of high school kids work for me that are there at night, and it's just not comfortable. I can't always get some guy in there working. I have mostly girls. And so whether people are drinking or not, or you say it's not a big deal, people coming from Stubby's really create a point where I've had to close earlier because it's not comfortable. You know, we get drunks from the Rosencrantz. People are just obviously going to drink more when liquor is offered. So for my point, it's a consideration for my employees. Second, it's consideration for the foot traffic on the street. And third is that blocks a lot of the sidewalk. And so even though there's trees there, it's that they're in between. That's not really applicable, but it's not, it still takes up room. You know, I don't mean to be a jerk of a neighbor. I like to see everyone do well, but when it's going to affect my business, it's going to affect it. And so the other consideration is that this is a post-COVID business. I actually wrote in the paper how I thought sidewalk dining was a great thing during COVID. It created an ambiance. It created, so many things for people to survive. In the retail side, we could only have 6 people in our store at a time. We had no option to go on the sidewalk. We obviously, we turned my store into a to-go. Basically, come to the counter, what do you want? We'll get it, and here's your bag. A lot of the kids said their parents wouldn't let them work there if we didn't have those precautions. So that was during COVID. This was a to-go business always, since the boarding house South and Angela owned it, and now it's like, I'm going to be a restaurant on the street. Is that like I just don't think it's fair to say, I rented this, I'm going to run it to go, and now I'm a street place. They did approach me on my alley. I didn't want to take the legal responsibility of having people drinking on my property. So that's pretty much what I have to say in objection to this. So if you have any questions for me, I'm here. But that's my statement.
Thank you, Annie.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just going to get one clarification from listening to Annie. I wrote down all her concerns. Is there servers, or are they coming out? They buying inside and walking out?
Of it, they should, yeah. In any sort of outdoor area is required to have staff at least in view of at all times.
Yeah. So I just want to throw this out there as we're talking. Let's talk through me and not talk to each other.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
So just to address the first question, so servers, we will have one server that will serve the tables out the front door, just like Rosencrantz. I think we counted about 18 to 20 seats outside. The food will be delivered in the same way as if it was takeout. But no one will be able to go in, purchase wine or beer, walk out the door, and open it. As far as takeout is concerned, mentioning the back, we don't have any plan to do takeout as of right now. So that I thought the back would be the appropriate place to do it, just because it's not a very busy street. The kitchen is accessible from the back, so we could set up a little table and people could walk up and we can hand them their food and they can walk away. But it's not part of my plan. We want to just, we haven't started making tacos yet. So we got to start doing that first.
If that was to happen, you would have to come back, right? For another
they probably
change of premises.
Other.
Okay. So to me, that's off.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It's the non-issue, at least right now.
As far as drunk people meandering into stores, we're going to stop serving alcohol at 8. I've made it clear we don't want to be a busy bar, and we don't want to be the gazebo. I love the gazebo, but we're not looking to be that. Our concept, our hope is that people, you get a mom and dad and their kids, they get a taco, they have a beer, maybe send the kids into the t-shirt shop next door, buy some stuff. Everybody's happy. As far as the mat, again, just to address this, the crowds or the loitering or the lines that everybody's talking about, I'd like to cross that bridge when we come to it. I have never heard of the Beat opening and people worried about the hundreds and thousands of people that are going to line up to go in. I hope we're successful. If we are, like I said, we live here too. We have a business another business in town. I certainly don't want to block the street. I want to be a part of Nantucket. I don't want to take from Nantucket. And then, from the photo that we're looking at here, there's just as much room in front of our business as Rose and Crown and most of the other restaurants that offer sidewalk seating. It's actually more space than, I measured it out, than the After House had. That sidewalk, especially in front of Annie and the Teas, is one of the widest sidewalks in the downtown area. It's 13.8 feet from the front door of Annie and the Teas to the curb. It's 10 feet 9 inches from the front of the surf shop to the curb. And what you don't see there is there's actually a vestibule, which I'm sure you all know, which is about 4 or 5 feet in. So again, we can accommodate 15, 18 people in line inside, plus that vestibule. If a line does form and we have to put a stanchion up, we will hire somebody to stand at that stanchion so that you don't have a line that makes an L curve or an elbow into Nan Taco, blocking the street, just like what Juice Bar does. But we have studied Juice Bar, and again, love Juice Bar, but I believe that the reason the line forms is people walk up and they go, what do you kids want? Do you want a waffle cone? And there's a lot of decisions to be made and it slows down. We want it to be quick. 6 types of tacos. There are 3, 6, or 9, one side. So we want to train our customers to just come in and come out.
Okay. A couple of thoughts. I think so. Whenever there's a new liquor license, we have to ask all the questions. So we're just doing our due diligence of asking everything, because if you don't, then we can kind of get into trouble. So that's why Melissa's kind of going through all the different aspects. So that's normal for a new liquor license and common victulars. And if I believe, Amy, if there is changes, so let's say there's a line way down, usually go in and say, okay, let's find a solution. Let's take out these 2 tables, or let's do this. So
Correct.
I think there could be. I feel strong that you're on top of it, especially after the last 2 years.
Yeah, correct. And again, then we're going to discuss the sidewalk license later too, as well, as far as conditions and ability to revoke the license or, make amendments to it. And the sidewalk area itself being it's a town property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Brooke, you had.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the intersection of the liquor license and the outdoor seating license, because you guys are relying so much on the outdoor seating for table service for liquor, right? So if the tables are not approved and we're not selling takeout liquor, then it basically means your liquor sales
Could only be
are eliminated, right? For the most part, for the tables indoors, the couple tables that are indoors.
They can
I
do
right?
so as long as it's consumed on the licensed premise. So if that's indoors, that's indoors. If they did that off season too as well. Currently, I just wanted to remind everyone that we still have the COVID exception of allowing for on-premise licensees to sell takeout liquor or takeout alcohol to go with food orders only, and it's limited and it has to be in an original container, but they would have that ability for at least another year. But they would have to have, in order for us to issue a common vicular, have to have some seating on the licensed premise for immediate consumption of the food that's prepared on the premise. That's the definition. So they would have, if it's 2 seats, it's 2 seats. They still have seating. Stubby's is a common vicular because they have a couple tables in there. But Walters would not be because they do not. So, yeah.
Okay, that helps. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Dawn, Melissa?
I'm really struggling with this one. I have no problem with the winter time 24 seats indoors, and having a beer and wine license here. I'm concerned by the large discrepancy in the summer between what's reliant on being on the sidewalk compared to indoors. It would make me feel better if it was even equal, but it's not even close. I think 18 seats outside for a business that could boom with takeout and a line is just, I think it's gonna be hard to manage.
I have a question just on this. Amy, are we, if we approve this, are we voting on the seats outside? Or is that separate because it's,
I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to think of like,
Yep.
is,
You are voting on those seats outside because when we had to submit to the state, they want to know what the entire licensed premise is that contains public property. And, we're learning that as we're going through this not post-COVID, as we come out of the restrictions, we also have to approve the transport of alcohol over public ways. So I'll probably make that part of your motion as well. So the fact that they're transporting that alcohol from the building to those tables is transporting it over public ways. But yes, you have to approve the total premise. So when I send the description to the state, it includes whatever premise is licensed.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure
To
before
consume.
if
Correct.
we didn't have to go down that road, I didn't want to go down
Yeah,
that road. So
yeah, correct.
I cut you off at all, Dawn? Is there,
No,
okay.
that's my concern.
Yeah, yep.
So to follow up to that, we approved the outdoor seating. And if there are issues with the outdoor seating, it's been approved, right? So how much wiggle room do you have to change that if it's not successful or there's problems? And because we've approved it.
Right. So we have to look at it as property owner. Should they were approved for a private property location, even like say down, it was NIR space down on the docks or something, and the patio wasn't working and the property owner removed permission to use that property, then that would have to be removed from the license. And then that, as property owners, technically, we could make that decision. And then we'd have to alter the premises just for the interior if that's the way they wanted to go. We've had, I'm trying to think of an example too. This didn't include outdoors, but the Boathouse at one time had a liquor license. They just have a couple tables indoors. It's mostly takeout, but they had a couple tables and they had a beer and wine license for just a couple years and it didn't really work out. And you know what? They got rid of it because it didn't work for them. The takeout is the business they wanted to go to. They only had a couple tables indoors, as you know, there. And it just wasn't worth the cost for them. So they chose to surrender that license. So that's kind of how that would go. They'd have to make that decision. But as property owners.
So if there's a congestion issue, just like Lemon Press, or if there's something Rosencrown, you go in and you'd say, this is a public safety issue. You got to take these two tables out, regardless of if we voted it all in tonight.
Correct.
So I think that's what I heard you ask. You asked something else.
Well, I think what I'm asking is that the business model depends on, as Don said, a large number of outdoor tables. Not like the Lemon Press moving some tables that they have indoors to the outdoors. It's different. It's a different approach.
I was thinking, Brooke, if all those tables come inside, then we're definitely going to push everybody outside in a line. So by putting the tables outside, you have more room for people to stand outside, and it's the same type of tables that the Rosencrown has. There's no difference. So to me, it goes together, and there's more room inside. At least that's how when I first looked at it, how I thought about it.
Is that the case though? Because in the season, there's the clothing store, so there's not really the flexibility to move tables. It's not an outside or inside question in the season, correct? Because in season, there's the clothing store, so there's not ability to expand the indoor seating.
Well, that's up to the retail person. Like maybe if they can change it, right? That retail person is part owner in this, so that would be up to them to figure that out, right? So if Amy came in and said, too bad, you got to take out half the seating, they'd have to figure that out.
Yeah, the property owner and retail is part of this equation and part of the team here as well. So they're fully involved in this.
Okay.
And I think additionally, that's why when we initially discussed this, I didn't want it to be 1,000% dependent on outdoor, to have a couple of seats indoors, at least during the season too, as well, to establish a common vicular, regardless of weather or we did the sidewalk.
So what I hear is mostly talking about is the common vicular, not really the alcohol.
Well, alcohol is part of it's a common vicular with or without.
I understand it, but our discussion is more like seating and
Seats.
congestion and more so than the alcohol, because it's 8 p.m. and it's only beer and wine. They could be asking for everything and try to go to one.
Correct.
So they thought through and said, I don't want that.
No, I think you're absolutely right. My concerns are really around the outside seating. It's a new variable. Every takeout business that's operated from there, there's congestion on that street. There's just no way to avoid it in the peak 8 weeks of the season. And now I'm also thinking, town staffing resources are limited, and there's just a lot of complicating factors in terms of being able to quickly monitor or address the situation and be responsive to it.
How many tables are outside, Amy?
Is it 4, I believe?
So
Hold on.
16 seats?
18.
I think
It could
was
be a maximum of 18 seats.
Right.
6. Yeah, 4.
So I think we don't want to close the public hearing now. I think we're still discussing. I mean, the board can still discuss outside of it, but I'm fine with them all the 18, because I have trust in Amy and her experience that if there is any congestion, we'll take a couple tables out, versus cutting it in half. You can't really add them, can you? If we were to put this through and say, we're only going to do half the seats because we just want to see how it goes, you can't go back and add it if there is no issue.
Just through an alteration of premises, though. It'd have to be a formal,
yeah.
when we increase the premises. Yeah.
Mhm.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Could we approve the 24 indoors? So they could have that in the winter and limit the outdoor availability? I think so.
You could, yes, because seasonally, we can approve something seasonally, obviously patios and things of that sort. We can put conditions on that, on the time of year. I think we did that similar with 45 Surfside, patio only this time of year, things of that sort. So we can certainly do so. You have a little more leeway with outdoor service of alcohol.
Okay. Lee, did you have a comment?
A couple of things. So just one question was about staffing. We do have staff housing. We have 175 college applicants with housing. So that shouldn't be an issue. And as far as the tables, so we don't want to put tables inside in season, because we want to, like you'd said, keep as many people in the line inside as possible so that they're not outside. The idea would be to flip-flop those roughly 18 seats, so that we plan to be open year-round. The idea is that in the off-season, we can put those tables and chairs inside. I know all the guys at Steamship are really excited about coming there, and we want it to be a place where, my wife and I have kids who played hockey. We know that after the hockey practice or the soccer practice, you don't have a Chipotle on the island. We want to kind of be that hub for those people. There was one other thing I wanted to bring up as far as just, again, the congestion. I can tell you that if, we say we're going to stop serving alcohol and outdoor seating at 8. If we find that a line starts to form at 6, which again, let's hope we're as successful as that, it would be in our best interest to take those tables and chairs out, right? I want there to be flow. I don't want people to not want to come to the restaurant because it's too congested. From a business standpoint, if we have people that want to come in and get food, and we're serving 18 seats where somebody might sit there for 30 minutes, it just makes bad business sense to keep those tables out there. I would get those tables away to accommodate people in line. The difference between us serving 3 more beers and 3 more tacos to somebody sitting at a table is going to be nominal to getting people to line up orderly and get them in and out of the restaurant. So I guess, I'm explaining my concept, I guess a little bit of a leap of faith with the fact that
if it turns into Grand Central Station out in front of the building, I don't want that. Because that's gonna negatively affect my business as much as it might negatively affect somebody else's. So,
Any other comments? Then I'm going to suggest us to close the public hearing soon. Annie, go ahead.
Sorry, I got to get my notes here. Couple things as far as serving beer, a family waiting outside, they're going to have their beer. The kids are going to hang out and say, let's go, or they may go to my t-shirt shop, but you're still blocking the sidewalk and beer encourages it. I'm not saying it's necessarily a rowdy crowd because they have a beer there, but you get the overflow of late night people from the strip that are walking around from 5 or 6 o'clock and they've been drinking. You all know we have numerous, college kids here that start early. So my objection is the sidewalk, serving people liquor on the sidewalk. When I was presented with their business plan for my alley, that was after the business plan said it's just a to-go place, and they looked into the alley. So I do have those big concerns. I don't mean to be a paranoid freak, but I've been on that street for so long. I've been in business here for 43 years. I know every street. I've had a store on every street in my past, and I want everyone to succeed, but if it's a to-go, and that's what I was initially informed of, then it should be to-go. If they have too many, I don't understand, did you approve the sidewalk dining already? No, okay. So I'm just saying it's a lot of people, 18, hanging out on that street. The strip is impossible to walk through during the day. You get all the people waiting for their pizza and the next food, and then the bike guys soliciting on the street. And it's just really uncomfortable. I used to have a store down on that street. You basically have to walk around them. So I'm just saying anything, I want them to get a lot of people, but there's no way where for them to go to wait. And beer does keep people loitering more. You see your friend, you hang out, wait for your taco, your kids are there. So those are my points again. That I feel kind of cover it. Okay. So I'm just letting you sit with that. And I have strong feelings about it, walking the sidewalk with all of that. And once again, it always has been a to-go, and there's been no issue. Of course, I want to say I'm busy, but there's not much room with those tables because other people would wait between the trees. I do have a bigger sidewalk, but I went into it knowing I had a bigger sidewalk, and I put the town trash down there, which takes up some, but I just said, we need more space for trash on this street. People are just like eating ice cream and I pick it up out back. And, I don't want to be the trash police down there either. So anyway, I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Thank you. Devin.
Hi, everybody. Deborah Pickcock from the Rosenground. Thank you for doing this. I would just like to say that I am looking forward to having them as neighbors and hope that you approve outdoor dining because I think we need all the seats we can get this summer for people to sit down and dine because we're losing 4 or 5 restaurants this year. We didn't have enough seats last year in restaurants. So I think doing the outdoor dining makes sense. I don't think it's going to be an issue as far as crowding the sidewalk. I think that there's an easy answer to the line going down the alleyway that Nick owns part of in order to be able to manage the line that way. So I am all in favor for it. I think they're going to be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa? Melissa,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
So, 2 quick questions. Amy, are there considerations, I'm sorry, I didn't read it closely enough, if there are for trash receptacles for outside for managing? Because
Additional
if
trash.
Well, I'm just thinking if, the outside service of food is in the same containers that are in to-go containers or that you would receive. I
Right.
finish my dinner with my family of 4. I'm going to, I'm just wondering if there was any discussion about that.
We did not. I mean, I can
Okay.
certainly include that.
Yeah.
And
And
I can
we
address
answer
that.
the-
We would
Oh,
boss the
definitely.
table.
Hold on, go ahead, Melissa.
Okay.
Okay.
And the, oh shoot, there was a second question. I'll come back to it. I'm sorry, I lost it.
Okay, just about the alley, I do own 60%, and I don't really want people hanging out in the alley. So.
Okay.
that-
Thank you. Lee, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah. So I know I said we would serve them in the same takeout, but we wouldn't expect them to then walk away and throw it in the public garbage. We would bus, the server would bus the table, just like any other restaurant. So that's it.
Thank you. I just, in all the years that I've, whether it was Vincent's or Sushi Sean, I never saw a line coming out of there, even when the takeout was right by the door. I never saw a line going anywhere. Maybe this is going to be the hot new item, but there's no precedence for that. There's no history of that. Right?
I
And
agree.
it's
I thought
further
there would
down.
be.
So
Yeah, correct.
just trying to think, have I ever seen that on that street?
Yeah, I had not.
Did you come up with your other thing?
No, I didn't. But I was just going to say, I think that it's hard to imagine that also with the added outside seating, because we've never seen that before. So I almost wish we could see one and then add another, see a year of service and then see what it's like and then add some seating, or, maybe have, 12 seats outside without it affecting the indoor license, so that we've got a little bit, there's some flexibility to move them and also to manage the crowd. It feels like a little bit of a compromise to me.
Yeah, okay. I'm thinking this through, and again, outdoor spaces is slightly different as far as occupancy is concerned. And how it would be written is the premise itself would have to be defined, meaning the area for which they could serve or consume liquor. So it could be written such that the area out front, if the seats are limited, it can certainly be done in that manner. So it's just really the area as well, because occupancy is different when it comes to outdoors. When it's open to the sky, it's not subject to similar type of building codes. So we would want to license the area, and we could possibly increase the seats from that. But I would again ask the ABCC on that, but I believe it would be licensing the premise and the square footage in the area in front of the building.
Okay. Are we getting close to closing this public hearing, or do we want to keep it open for a little bit? Go ahead.
I was going to make a motion to close the public hearing.
That's fine.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the public hearing is closed. We can still talk as much as we want, and we can ask Amy any questions. Go ahead.
So Don brought up the question of licensing the seats indoors and then having the outdoor dining as a separate approval, as opposed to approving the outdoor dining with the license. What would be the difference between those?
Sure, Dawn. Is that what
I
you-
think what I was thinking is that when they have the ability to set up 24 seats indoors, they could do so. But when they don't have that ability, that 18 might be a little too many on the sidewalk, compared to only 6 inside. I felt like it was tipping into it being so dependent on the outdoor seats. So I kind of liked Melissa's suggestion of 12, which would be 3 tables of 4.
And for the first year, in my mind, that gives us a sense of the operation. It gives them time to flex their wings, to get the neighborhood comfortable with that, with something that we have not seen before in that building. But also gives, I think Deba raises a really great point, that we have a lot of restaurants that are closed, and there are not a lot of places in town that are, family friendly and easy for people to just sit down and have a simple, affordable meal. And that is a great asset that I think, factors into my consideration of having outside dining for sure. So should I make a motion?
I'd like to,
Yes. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Jason, go ahead.
so I'm okay with, if somebody makes a motion that passes, I would vote for the full 18. And here's why. If it ends up at 12, that's still great. They've got some seats, but they're not, if the liquor license they were asking was till midnight or 10 or 11, it's just different. It's a different atmosphere. They're not asking for that. They're not here with a lawyer. They're not, everybody else who come in here is at a lawyer, right? So I just feel like Amy has said they've worked with them well. I feel like if it did go to 18, then if Amy was to change it, if we could set it up that way, then 2 tables would go. That's where I'm at. I understand where we're kind of, as Matt says, I can tell where this is going. But that's why I feel comfortable with doing it, because there is a reputation part to it. And if it's, I don't want to say I would go another way if I didn't know them or there was an attorney here, but that's why I'm comfortable doing it, is I don't think it's going to be an issue. Just my thoughts before the motion goes out.
I completely respect that. And I think that my biggest concern is, despite the best intentions, and I think, very good business model and representation, I think that we just don't know what we don't know yet in that area. So I would be comfortable, I suppose, with the full 18 seats if we had some triggering events that, or that you feel that you are empowered indeed to say, okay, these things have happened, we've got to take 2 tables out. Because I'm not suggesting that it's going to be poor management. I think it's just it's got the possibility for overwhelm. And God, I hope that. I hope it's a really successful spot, and I hope that it is successful year round. I just think we don't know how to quite manage that yet.
If I could respond to that, just thinking through it again, we're acting as property owners or stewards of that property as well. So you'd be acting in the sense as far as any sort of restrictions or conditions we put on the revocable sidewalk license, which would include accessibility and ADA requirements. And if it gets too, jammed up in that area and we can't maintain that, that's a triggering event in that license to remove it or amend it because of that. So that would be that's like violating certain other regulations or restrictions in their license. So look at it as being stewards or owners of that property that those tables are on.
And does that have to come to us? So you say, hey,
Correct.
I've got these photos, these things are happening. So there's a time lag between, say, you see it on a Sunday, but we're not meeting for another 10 days. You are not empowered to say within that 10-day period, you've got to pull those 2 tables. But you could ask.
We could, I think, and again, I have in the packet, I think, the license and conditions of the sidewalk license, but it does empower the town of Nantucket and management and the town manager or their designee to act in those areas. But certainly bring before the board any sort of restrictions or things that were, because you're not essentially suspending the liquor license. In essence, right? That would require much more legal wrangling and setting up of a public hearing.
Right.
So again, that's how I'd approach it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've made changes for the juice bar, Stubbies. We moved that space out so we could walk. A lot of it was COVID based, but it's still there, right? So we can make moves. That's a good question of can Amy go in and make that move fast, or is it going to take 3 weeks?
Right.
Advertise in
Yes.
the paper. And next thing you know, it's September.
Right.
Because I'm already unpopular enough. I'm going to take tacos away.
You're going to take
Thank
tacos
you.
away
Appreciate
from kids.
it. So yeah, and we're still in the quagmire of COVID, trying to figure this all out. And again, I think that's why the state extended a lot of these things for another year, because no one knows what they're doing. They're just trying to figure out if this is something you're going to do permanently. So, and we've had that frank conversation that I don't know the future of this. We may do another year and go, oh God, never again. Or we may shut down downtown and make pedestrian plazas. I don't know. So we've had that frank discussion that, again, sidewalk dining is we're still feeling it out. I think everyone is. So
Just my only other comment before we go to motion is I would love to see some requirement for trash receptacle, where, you know, I don't know exactly where it could go, but I think even if the tables are bust and the primary service is takeout business, there's just so much trash generated. Having an extra trash receptacle, I think, would be good neighbor gesture. So that's my last thought, I think.
Okay. Comments? Sorry, I'm facing this way mostly because Amy, and I feel like I have my back towards you.
I know.
I'm sorry. Is there a motion?
Nothing personal.
Well, I'll go ahead to approve the application with the full 18 seats with the addition of a trash receptacle. And I think, is that pretty much all I need to do?
May I also add that you approve the transport and service of alcohol over public ways?
So moved.
Okay, and then we'll do the detrimental part after this.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a second for discussion? Okay, there's no second. That motion does not move forward. Is there another motion?
I would make the same motion with it. 24 could be available indoors at any time of the year, but only 12 outside.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's a no for me, so that passes 3-1.
And I'll make a motion that it is not detrimental to the spiritual activities of the churches in the vicinity.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 So that passes. Okay, we're on to number 8.
Sorry, before you continue, can I just clarify, does Dawn's motion include the transport and service of alcohol over public ways?
She didn't say
Yeah,
that.
I said the same motion.
Oh, okay. You just changed
With
that.
that.
Thank you, just making sure.
Okay, public hearing to consider application for new mobile food unit license for Nan Taco, AC LLC, DBA Nan Taco. Biju Yoshi is the manager.
Right. So same operation. They have put together, do we have a photo of that by chance? The mobile food unit, they have already applied for and received approval from the land bank for service at Cisco Beach parking lot, along with a few others through that program as well. They also, through mobile food unit, can do private events. They also are in the process of applying for a caterer's liquor license, which would allow for, and that's a state license, allow for liquor service. As I showed, here's the photo of it. Again, obviously that photo has liquor in it. If they were at a private property or private event, they are allowed to, once that license goes through, serve for private events only. They could not do so on public property with that license. And just to review, and Brooke, as far as how we go with this conditions of mobile food unit licenses, again, they would be approved for private property service. Public vending at any time would require property owner approval, which in this case they had for that first location. Any additional locations that came up would have to come through zoning and through licensing as well for approval. We generally don't allow for operation within 500 feet of a licensed food establishment unless there is a other agreement. Nothing downtown in the core service historic district as well. Considerations for trash being removed before leaving the area and properly disposed of. They need to return to their approved base of operations daily. They've gotten approved by the health department. They need to operate out of a approved commercial kitchen, which they have at their location as well. So when that has been approved, as I mentioned, the commercial kitchen at 21 South Water. And I believe that is it. And they've gone through all the other requirements. Any questions?
Melissa?
Thank you. Amy, with the alcohol license that they're going to apply for through the state, and you just mentioned that it would not be available to sell on public property.
Correct.
So, but Cisco would be bound by land bank. So
correct. There
there's
would be
no
alcohol
sales
correct.
on places
No.
like that. I just want to be really clear about that.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Your thoughts, comments? This is a public hearing. If there's any comments? I don't see any hands on the remote attendees.
Motion to close the public hearing.
There's a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I jumped the gun there.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you.
I did. Yes.
It's normally been Melissa, but now Brooke's popping in there. You got to pay attention. Okay.
It's okay if you mistake Brooke for me or me for Brooke. It's okay.
Public hearing number 9. So we'll open this hearing to consider application for a new seasonal general on premises with wine and malt beverage license for Hungry Minnow LLC, DBA Flying Minnow. This is at the airport outside in the, well, Amy, you'll go over that, right?
Yes, correct. So hold on a minute, I was out of order there.
And we have
as well.
Rebecca on as a participant, our panelist.
Yes. So here it is. Okay. So the application is for a new concession that is going to be located out on airport property in the seasonal holding tent, which is past security at the airport. I received I'm going to go over quickly from the airport. Their setup and their reasoning. They did I believe, an RFP process recently, and the applicant was awarded the concession. So I asked the airport to kind of outline some of that. We've had some questions about this as well. It's going to be prepackaged and other types of items. It's not a prepared foods or common vicular type of situation in this holding area. So the airport said there's no FAA oversight in this sort of situation, other than the use of sound business practices and sourcing and managing these concessions. So again, that question is, it would be under the airport management. The RFP exists to fill an operational need that they felt to provide food and beverage retail in the secure hold room. Over the past decade, airport traffic has shifted to peak summer, large commercial service, and there's a gap in retail food beverage offerings in the sector. Obviously, there is a restaurant on site as well that they address. They structured the RFP to provide operational benefit and convenience to the traveling passenger. It provides revenue to the airport, but revenue generation is not the primary goal. Alcohol service opportunities are traditionally provided by airport operators, expected by airport passengers. As they mentioned, the airport restaurant serves alcohol, has for quite some time. Their clientele includes both general aviation passenger and non-secure air taxi passengers who can be faced with long or long delays. They are not aware of any complaints related to overserved, unruly, delayed passengers, and will expect the same with the secure hold room. That was certainly our concern in adding alcohol in this area. I believe the applicant, as we put in here too, as well outlined, we have a photo too as well, because I know it's probably hard to imagine this area. A photo included for the hold room area. It would be seasonal. The lease starts on May the 1st. That goes into the fall. Let me pull that up. So the retail and Rebecca is joining us via Zoom. I'll have her kind of go over the operational, but it's going to provide retail, sundries, souvenirs, grab and go package and shelf stable food and beverage. The area for retail is 12 by 12 space that has refrigeration and point of sale stand where they'll be checked out. Let's see. So they have a very limited area here. Here we go. We're going to show kind of the area here where the passengers would be able to consume the beverages, would be in sight of staff as well, and would not obviously be able to leave the area with those beverages. And again, it's a beer and wine. And let's see here. I'll have Rebecca address that. They do have a secure cage in the back to hold stock of beverages, as well as a locking refrigerator that passengers do not have access to. Will be locked when not open and monitored by cameras. The adjacent seating area in this area will have a few cafe tables and chairs and raised counters where guests can gather to consume beverages and create a perimeter of the area. So I will leave it at that, and certainly Rebecca can add to that as far as her operations. And again, she's on Zoom.
Hi, Rebecca. Would you like to speak on anything? I think you're muted.
Hi, thank
There
you
you are.
thank you for your time. I'm Rebecca Chapa from the Hungry Minnow, and the DBA for this new business is the Flying Minnow. We actually operated a similar business without a liquor license in 2019 in the airport, and found it to be very successful to offer a better experience for the passengers departing Nantucket after you go through the TSA security checkpoint. We found that people were very, sort of stranded there. Once you go through security at our airport, you find that it's impossible to go back out to get a snack or something. Currently, Crosswinds is available, but only, well in advance of your flight. So if you're rushing to the airport, there was nothing there except for two vending machines. So we found it to be really successful, serving soft drinks and canned coffee and some really interesting shelf stable hearty snacks like hummus and things like that. And so this year I was able to receive the contract to do the 2022 season. And we would very much like to be able to offer a reasonable selection, probably like 3 or 4 items, canned, mostly beverages, alcoholic beverages, just beer, wine, possibly cider for the people that are waiting for their flights. The intention is that there's a 12 by 12 retail area where people can walk around and shop. And then next door is a 12 by 12 sort of cordoned off with shelving, sort of a handrail bar type situation, and a couple tables that would be available to both people who are imbibing and not. And there would be one service person who is the only person who's doling out any alcoholic beverages, ensuring that they're properly given to a person who has the proper ID of the proper age, and that they would then be escorted to enjoy that beverage within that small 12 by 12 area. So we don't expect this to be a very boisterous airport concession. This is no Wahlburgers or something like that. It's not, that's not the intention. The intention is just to allow people to enjoy something, maybe take the edge off if they have anxiety while traveling, and enjoy a beverage before they get on their flight.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any questions for Amy or Rebecca? Any public comment? This is a public hearing. Okay, is Dawn?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 4-0. Any thoughts?
I would make a motion to approve it.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Just a comment.
Yep.
It's absolutely awful once you go through security that there's nothing.
When there's no water in the vending
and
machine?
there's no water in the vending machine, even when you go to it.
And then when your flight's delayed and you're stuck in there for,
Yeah.
fog
Yeah.
happens.
Glad it's back. Okay, public hearing number 10. We'll open the public hearing to consider application for a new annual wine and malt beverage off-premises package store license for K&K Anderson LLC, DBA Born and Bred.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is kind of talk about the next 2 public hearings together. We need to, and hopefully my comments can be copied into the next public hearing as well. So we're getting into a couple things, and Brooke, I'll kind of cue you in onto the history here. So when we have a off-premise license, which is a package store, meaning the alcoholic beverages are consumed off the premise from which they are purchased, it is governed by quotas. We don't currently have an on-premise quota. That's something we'd have to establish here and pick a number, but the package store quotas are determined by population in 2 different ways. So we have an annual quota and a seasonal quota. And I think, can we pop up there, Erica, possibly the quota documents, if we have those as well. So I'm gonna, both of these, which is helpful, the first one being an annual request. The second one, hearing coming after for the green, will be seasonal. So they are operating off of 2 different quotas. Okay. I'll address annual quotas first. Annual quotas is based on a federal census population determined every 10 years. Obviously, we just went through a census and was reset. However, it didn't change anything because 10 years ago, our population was certified at 10,172. This year it came in at 14,255. It would have gone up over 5,000 to change it. So we're exactly the same as where we've been. On an annual off-premise basis, all alcoholic beverage licenses for each unit of 5,000 persons with a minimum of 2, and then 1 wine and malt license may be granted for each unit of 5,000 persons or a fraction thereof with a minimum of 5. So currently on an annual basis for all alcoholic package stores, we're over by 2. So we'd have to surrender 3 of them before we can ever issue one of those again. This application is for a wine and malt package store license. We have one available in that category in the annual wine and malt package store licenses. We currently have 4. Pip and Anchor on 14 Amelia Drive, Mid-Island, Nantucket Trading Post, again, Mid-Island, 12 Nobodere Farm Road, Bartlett's, 33 Bartlett Farm Road, and then Nantucket Meat and Fish Market on Old South Road. So that's where we stand there. If I may address the seasonal quotas too as well and get this all in. For the next one, the seasonal package stores will be managed on a different quota basis. It is based on population, but again, on a population that's voted on by the select board every year based on what the determination is of our top population as of July the 10th every year, which is set by the state. So we vote on that every year. We've been voting and keeping it based on some data points on a population on a study done a few years ago on cell phone usage and other data points, and we base it on 45,000. That gives us 9 seasonal package stores with 9 licenses available. 9 being the quota. The total licenses we currently have are 7, meaning there are 2 available in that category. And I listed there the ones we have in those locations. So I just want to outline that first on both. Now the history here in both of these applications are involved. This first one, Born and Bred, which is asking for an annual beer and wine license. This is the second application. Both these applicants applied last year. Born and Bred in April, the Green in May of last year. By law, once a denial is made, you can either appeal that to the ABCC and have a hearing and go through all of that, or after a year, you can reapply. And that's the case. I specifically put these in an order to be fair based on when they were received last year. We had one other application last year. We had 3 within April and May for the downtown area. One was Pizzeria Gemelli. I reached out to them to make sure they had a fair opportunity to reapply. They chose to stick with the on-premise license that they currently have. So when this came up again, I reached out to all 3 so that we made sure there was fair opportunity. So there's a specific reason I did it in this. However, again, different quotas for each one that we're dealing with. Okay, so that's the history there. And that, Brooke, as far as, we went over the 5 considerations when considering a new liquor license in a denial. If one of those reasons is a reason for denial, when we make a denial, the applicant can either appeal to the ABCC within 5 days. What happens there is, and we've done this several times in my tenure here, is you go up to the ABCC and have a hearing before their board. They kind of take a look at the hearing process, all the information that was received. If they feel it was an arbitrary decision or we didn't properly hear it, or for some other reason, and did not agree with the decision, it would get sent back to you. They don't just automatically issue the license and say, oh, this is wrong, here you go. They would send it back for reconsideration to this board. And that takes months, really. It takes months to schedule, and that's kind of the process. So again, if you don't go through that, you have a year and then you can reapply. So that's where we are with both of these right now. So a question before we kind of move into this so that we have all the background. A question was asked whether we can hear both of these on a public hearing and then consider both but I think we have to do one each back to back, right? So that's why I wanted to kind of cover the whole quota system so you understand what you're facing in both of these public hearings, if that's okay. So I believe I've covered all the background there. First applicant here, Born and Bred. Again, they're located downtown on 35 Center Street. Applied last year, applying again they have a common vicular there as well and have some seating there as well, but are asking for an off-premise license there. Again, I think we went through that. Hold on just 1 minute. Catch up here as well. And Kevin Anderson is certainly here to speak about his operation. They've been there for several years. No issues there as well. He could discuss the goods and services that he sells there and the food that they sell as well. He's also operated a liquor license down the street at After House as well, so has experience in that operation as well. So I will let me make sure I've covered everything. I believe so. I will leave it up to Kevin to talk about his operation.
I'm Kevin Anderson, Born and Bred. First, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Fee and Ms. Moore on the recent elections, and thank you guys for everything you do for the community. In the interest of putting my best foot forward, I had lined up legal representation to be here, but yesterday he informed me he has significant health issues, so here I am in front of you guys. We're here to petition for a Section 15 annual wine and malt liquor license. We were denied last year due to the number of existing package store licenses in the downtown area was the official denial. First, I'm not here to become a package store. We are a bread bakery, and we pride ourselves on offering the best local goods available in our region. It's our goal to complement our current offerings with a small, curated local beer and wine selection. We have demand for it. We have a tiny dedicated space available, and we feel the town doesn't currently offer this annually. I want to point out that the current quota, as Amy did, the current quota calls for one more annual wine and malt license. I also want to point out the location of all of those Section 15 annual wine and malt licenses. If you do decide to grant me the last available annual wine and malt license, I would be the only Section 15 wine and malt license in town. Lastly, we want to highlight our application as a minimal impact application. We are not becoming a liquor store. We would simply like to add local beer and wine sales to complement the already curated local mercantile. In this quota system of licensing, you can use us to achieve an economically low impact license that will curtail any concern of irresponsibility, oversaturation, or overreaching. Thank you for your consideration. I look forward to exploring how we can get this done tonight and hear if you guys have any more questions.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin? Not right now, but something might come up. I'm here. Yeah, thank you. Amy?
May I ask Erica, can we pull up the map of downtown? And the one thing I did not, and thanks Kevin, did bring that up, review the reasons for it. We had the notes there, obviously in the package, was the number, one of the reasons to consider is the number of dispensaries in the location. We kind of mapped out some of the applications that we had, and the location of package stores. And correct, and the one thing I wanted to point out too with the applications is the type of establishment that is applying for it. Obviously, some of the others in the area, Murray's, Harpoon Liquors, Epernay, are more package store, and this is kind of a specialty sandwich grocery type of situation. So that was a reasoning in the past, as we have few left to give and several in the area, which is one of the reasons that you can use for denial.
Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody like to speak on this, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, my name is James Mee, and we live on North Liberty. And I have to say, they run a nice business there. It really adds a little new features to the downtown area. And as you know, the struggle that people have paying the rents downtown, and any ability for them to increase their intensification that in such a slight way to help their profitability, to me, sounds like it makes a lot of sense. We like to actually walk downtown and purchase things, and there's fewer and fewer things to purchase downtown. We don't actually get over to Murray's very often as a package store, but we would see this as a nice feature to offer to people who walk downtown and use it. And we have a challenge downtown of keeping those establishments going, and Kevin runs a good business, and I think the board should support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Benzie. I'm the owner of Epernay Wine and Spirits. Thank you for having me here tonight. And Amy, thank you very much for explaining the history and the quota. What I'd like to say this evening is that based on the denial previously for this and the next license, is that nothing has changed based on someone giving up their license or a situation in town that I think I would hope that you would see that would warrant passing to have another license in the downtown area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Sorry, I'm trying to read my packet and watch the attendees. Okay, are we ready for Don's motion to close the public hearing? Sorry, Don, put that on you.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. What does the board think? Do we want to talk about it? Is there a motion? So I'll just throw some words out there before everybody's thinking. So there's, just as a reminder, there's 1 left for annual, 2 left for seasonal. One thing I was thinking about when I was looking at the all alcohol package store, it's only 3 per census, but when there's 50, 60,000 people here, it makes sense why there's 5.
Right.
That's a total side note, but. Yeah.
May I just add one thing too, when we consider these is, and I know Chief is very specific on this, is conditions of it being how much space that they are dedicating retail space to liquor sales. So it's, if it's this amount of square foot too, that's one other thing we need to certainly consider too as well. So if it's, the full retail area, no, it's a bookcase over here in this amount of space, that's part of the
it's part of the application, correct?
the application and lesson. So
Right.
that's something too, as far as an amount of space dedicated to retail sales.
With all your extra time, Amy, like who checks that? Because there's people always say like, oh, there's creep,
Right.
and it goes bigger and bigger. I don't
Yeah.
know that to be true, but maybe
Oh,
there is.
I yes, it is. And I'm thinking
Okay.
one right now that I need to send a letter to. Yes, but at least gives us something to work off of. Yeah, when we see
Okay.
problems. Yeah.
So let me throw a scenario out there. Let's say this passes,
Mhm.
and it didn't pass before because of reasons, and some
Correct.
things haven't changed.
Correct.
What could happen then?
Meaning,
I don't know. Someone appeals it, or because nothing changed, or I know this is sensitive when you deny it. Is it equally as sensitive when you prove it?
certainly someone can certainly take action against. I don't have a process or procedure for that. I'm certainly, there's all sorts of injunctions and stuff, something like that I'm sure maybe one of the attorneys can address. As far as that, I've seen injunctions on certain decisions before, but I haven't dealt with that. It's in your prerogative to determine whether or not the area is well served by what we have. If this offers a different type of service than we currently have in that area, similar type of establishments. I mean, you have a quota, you're not going over, although I need to look in the history of how we're over by 3.
For all alcohol.
I keep meaning to look that up.
That was
But-
before all our time here. so-
Correct. That's been a long time, sort of situation. So this would tie it up. We wouldn't, I don't think there's a huge, need for more, but it's a different type of setup. It's not a full package store, but again, that's one of the considerations.
Mhm.
Is the area well served
Mhm.
by what's out there? Is this different enough to provide something new? Nothing has changed. Jenny's correct. I didn't bring that up as well. No conditions have changed since the last review of this.
Mhm. It was a different time. with the
Correct.
pandemic and COVID. I don't know how much that, it's not in the minutes, but I feel like maybe there was a different atmosphere there.
Certainly.
I'm just giving
Yeah.
my board members some time to
Yeah,
think.
I think last year and this year, my concerns still really remain the same, that there is just alcohol creep. And I really understand the boutique element that's being proposed, and I value Born and Bred. And I think they've done a really nice job of, it's clear that having just a bakery downtown is not a sustainable enough business year round. So, I think they very smartly supplemented it by having artisanal items that are locally made and sourced, and I hope that's been successful for them. But I just have such a hard time supporting more alcohol sales downtown. I think there are businesses in the area where if I wanted to pick up a lovely sandwich or bread, and then I could walk somewhere else and pick up a nice bottle of wine and then go, enjoy that somewhere. And that's benefiting two businesses, not just one. So I'm not decided at this moment, but I don't see that things have changed much in terms of my opinion from last year.
Brooke or Dawn? I have a comment if you
Yeah,
wanna wait.
no, it just, it's really hard because we've already kind of had this discussion. And it actually in my time on the board, it actually started with Lemon Press wanting something similar before they moved to Main Street, which had a full liquor license for service. They actually never got a package store license. I'm still concerned about approving this.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that only having one left on the whole island, there may be a location that will provide a better service to certain neighborhoods.
Okay, we did close the public
we
hearing,
did, I
but
apologize.
if there's something that is
No,
added,
no, I just-
okay,
Rebuttal, but that's fine.
okay.
Apologize.
Brooke?
So as far as I understand, or in my experience, there's no lack of access in this area at all for someone who wants to pick up beer or wine. So I think to Don's point, there are other underserved areas of the island that someone might want to add to at a later date. So, and frankly, I was here for the meeting when you guys denied both those meetings, and nothing's changed. So
Just to put my 2 cents in, I feel more comfortable with this, and I'm definitely, I think my focus on having more family friendly events and places is more on events, not trying to have more events and situations with alcohol. I'm not worried about a bakery that's selling wine. I don't consider that as the level of additive that was mentioned earlier. There's a lot of ways you can make a business viable. That's the quickest one. It's got the best margins. So I get that. I like that it's open year round. So I've come around a little bit. I don't think a lot of it is talking to other purveyors, them not being worried that it's not going to affect them at all. It's going to be an additive. And then I thought, well, when I had the coffee shop, if someone said, you can't sell, I know alcohol is different, so it's not the best example, but someone said, you can't sell pastries because you're going to take away from Stop and Shop. I wouldn't really, wouldn't like that.
Yeah.
If we can control it with the space, I think I just thought through it more and less concerned about it than I was in previous years.
Jason, to that point, what about the this being the sort of last available license, and there is, a lot of new development happening. Do we want to have such a high concentration of this particular kind of license in downtown area? And that's something that I do think about. We don't know what's coming at us, and or what could come in the future. So that's, I think, something I didn't think about last year,
Right.
that I consider and think about now.
The year-round package store, just malt and beverage, most of them are not downtown, right? For annual, right? It's Trading Post. It's
Correct.
so there's not a lot downtown. So that, I'm not sure. I didn't think through that last year, or where in the summer there's a lot to go around, and
Right.
everyone's pretty busy.
If I can, on the in the summary here, I put the package stores in the immediate vicinity of downtown and the distance, with current vintage being 800 feet away, Murray's 400 feet, Fresh, Harpoon Liquors 900 feet. Murray's is annual, current vintage and Fresh are seasonal, and then perimeter you have Epernay 1,300 feet away, that's seasonal, and Hatch's annual is 3/4 of a mile away. So that's what we're looking at the immediate vicinity.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting to me, because most of those licenses are seasonal.
Yep.
And so we're talking about somebody being able to grab a bottle of wine in the winter when they come downtown to pick up food. That's a compelling argument to me.
Yeah.
Actually.
Murray's is the only annual downtown.
Yeah, that to my mind, that changes my thinking on this. Thanks, Amy. That was really great.
Just my take on current vintage, they've got a certain market, and it's, I don't think it would, when I try to think, like, is it going to hurt anyone, right? I don't think so. Current vintage does it really well, and I think it's a little different. It's me talking to other purveyors, right? I'm not much of a wine drinker, so I couldn't explain that in detail, but
May I ask? I'm sorry.
I'm just going to reiterate the idea that we're supporting a year-round business in this way. It's downtown.
Yeah, so I guess the alternative is like to save that one last spot for something else that's coming up. And I guess that kind of what you're saying is that, well, it's a known entity and they're open year round. They've been there for a couple of years, and it's right. It's not an unknown entity.
May I ask a question of Amy? When you receive one of these licenses, and if I choose to have a party at my house, can I call Born and Bred and say, I'd like to buy 4 cases of this wine from you?
They would need to have a transportation permit, which is a state license, to do so.
Okay.
But they could. There's several do have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that come through us?
No, it's a state license.
So they doesn't.
Yeah, they would have to do it and have register and all that sort of thing. So yes.
But that's just for delivery, right? If
For
someone
delivery.
were to
Correct.
order it and pick it up, they could do that.
Yeah, they would have to do so themselves. Yeah.
Okay, how we feeling?
I'd be willing to make a motion to approve.
Is there a second for discussion?
I'll second for discussion. I
Any
think
thoughts?
the year-round argument is very compelling. I do think that this business has demonstrated a commitment to staying open to the year-round community, and I think that would extend to their commitment to keep the alcohol selection curated and small and sort of boutique in nature, which would be another concern. The other available package stores have a beautiful but larger selection, and they are not all open year round. So I think that you may have convinced me.
And Amy, in this application, it's the square footage and all that is part of it, right?
Yeah, the information, yeah, for the premises, correct.
Okay.
Pull that up.
That would be my only, I think, a fail if, down the road, nothing against particularly you, the purveyors, but if it ends up being 3 times what, and like 4 tables are gone, because that's my whole family friendly kind of, you can go in with
Correct.
kids and sit and have a pastry, and if that was
Correct.
replaced with coolers, then I feel like this would be a mistake.
Yeah, we can move for an alteration of premises at that point where that can be addressed.
Right. Not saying that would happen, but that's where I
Correct.
think my only concern would be.
Right.
Is there, though, in the application, a limitation on the amount of square footage that can be dedicated to alcohol sales? Because I see the square footage of the business itself, which is rather small anyway.
Right. There can be, as far as limitation, as far as how much floor space is used for retail. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The floor plan does lay that out.
Okay.
So he has to put the full premise square footage and then the layout.
Okay. Any more comments?
I see it here. Okay, that's on page 272 of the packet. I have no
Are we ready
further
for a vote, or
comments.
did you want to look at that?
No, I'm good. Thank you. So Brooke made the motion. I seconded it.
Yep. Erica, do you have a question? Okay, you looked at me. You have the question. Look. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so that passes 3-1. Yes. I think you have a mask on, Erica, so I read your eyes wrong. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on to public hearing number 11. So we'll open it. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, Don. Yeah, we can do that.
Should I?
Do you want to
I
make a
actually
motion?
don't know what to say.
Just that it's not detrimental to the spiritual activities of the churches in the area.
Oh, yes, second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes 3-0. Okay, open public hearing to consider application for a new seasonal wine and malt beverages off-premises package store license for the Green Market LLC, Jenny Bentz. This is located at 4 India Street.
Okay. Can I begin? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So I'll just reiterate, this application is for a seasonal. Again, the seasonal quota based on what you vote on every year as far as the summer temporary population, which right now is voted on at 45,000. Again, if that's something that went up in the future, that would increase for every 5,000 the number of licenses. So the quota right now, we're at 9. Again, the 7 licenses we have in the area are 167 Raw out towards Cisco. We have Bricks on Windy Way, Current Vintage again on Easy Street, Epernay on North Beach Street, Harpoon Liquors Fresh over by Stop and Shop on Salem Street, Millie's Market out in Nantucket, and the Sconset Bookstore out in Sconset. So those are the 7 that we have on a seasonal basis. And again, seasonal, just to reiterate, is April 1st to January 15th operations or any portion thereof. This application, again, is for the green, originally applied in May of 2021. Denial was based in a similar fashion to the number of existing dispensaries in the area. The green is located just a block away from what we were just discussing in the core. Again, with the similar distances to those 5 other package stores, and now Born and Bred a block away. And again, this being seasonal. And again, I'll have them, I think Brian here as well, to discuss the operations there.
Hi, for the record, Brian Swain, attorney for the applicant. I'm here with Jenny Bentz, the manager and owner of the Green. Also owns the Green on West Creek Road, year-round business. And this is an application for wine and malted beverages only. The market itself is located downtown in the commercial zoning district. The market provides full service takeout. It sells organic goods, produce, groceries, other related products commonly associated with a market. In addition to prepared food, it sells raw foods that customers can purchase and take home and cook themselves. It's a 1,800 square foot space with a commercial kitchen, some retail space, and it has exclusive basement storage. The wine and malted beverages that would be available to the public is limited to just 2 coolers that are approximately 2 feet wide. This isn't an application to become a full service package store. It's a high-end market or a market that is available to everyone, where they can come in, get food and get takeout. They could get a 6-pack of beer. They're not trying to sell large quantities to the masses on Fagawi weekend or 4th of July. The hours of operation, they close at 5 o'clock in the winter and 7 o'clock in the summer. So there shouldn't be any concern with selling alcohol to people late at night. She has a stellar reputation. She's very successful with the Green Sandwich Shop. She has a taco truck. She graduated from high school here, employs a lot of year-round employees. Historically, the downtown has had other liquor licenses that have been surrendered and not replaced. There was a liquor license at the gas station that was in town back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and that was never replaced. She intends to sell craft beer, 6-packs, and bottles of wine that will pair well with her the cheese she sells, the produce and the meat and everything of that nature. So it's ancillary to her business. It's not going to be a primary package store. And she has some letters of support that we'd like to read into the record from other business owners. This one, first one is from Daria Galt, owner of the Lemon Press. Dear Select Board, we endorse the Green Market for their beer and wine license for convenience in an actual marketplace in the town of Nantucket. Another one from Maria Marley, owner of Pie Pizza. This letters in support of Jenny, the owner of the Green Market on 4 India Street, obtaining a beer and wine license. In addition to beer and wine license, will only enhance their customer shopping experience, and many people shop at the market to begin with. Will become a one-stop shop. Other similar non-corporate food markets on the island are already providing this convenience for the customers. Currently, there are no business in the downtown district where grocery shopping can purchase beer and wine in a one-stop shopping for a local business owner. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. We'd ask that you approve this license. We just approved one for the prior applicant in the downtown area. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, any thoughts from the board? Oh, Amy?
I just want to make one addition to the comments on the quota for seasonal. In annual quotas, they do differentiate on all alcohol and wine and malt. For seasonal, it's all kind of grouped together. So we do have 2 available licenses. They aren't separated between all alcohol and wine and malt. So we have 2 available for either.
Okay, thank you, Amy. The board like to start, or just it's public hearing, so anybody can speak in the public?
For the record, Linda Williams. I'm speaking as a member of the public, though I've known Jenny a long time. I'm familiar with her operation. She has put her heart and soul into that space downtown. She does not own the building. Dale Wayne and his brother still own that building. It used to be the old Wayne Electric back in the day. None of you were here then. You weren't even born. It was a gourmet shop before, if anybody remembers the Nantucket Gourmet. They had takeout and they had retail in that space as well. This is a space that is open year-round, even though it's a seasonal liquor license. It will be open year-round. She sells a lot of, I bought stuff in there. It's high-end cheeses and gourmet soups, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of times a wine through the salesperson can be paired with a soup or with a meat or with a cheese that is part of a gourmet setup. There used to be a place on Main Street I knew because my boyfriend's parents owned it back in the 70s called La Patisserie. It was in the brick building across the street from the hub, which is almost identical to what Jenny's doing. They had gourmet soups, they had cheeses, and they paired specific wines with certain things. So I don't see it as a competition with some of the liquor stores. And my understanding is that Murray's hasn't made a comment, Fresh hasn't made a comment, Bricks hasn't made a comment. So I don't see that those guys are looking at this as a competition, which we can't consider as a regulatory board. But I think it's a well-run establishment. She has put a lot of money into fixing up that space for anybody who's been in that space. And as you mentioned earlier, with the earlier applicant, you have to maximize how much money you can bring in and the services that you offer in order to afford rent downtown. And as you also mentioned earlier, there's very few places that are open year-round downtown. And I know Remain's objective and a lot of our objectives is to keep people coming into town and keep downtown vital. And I think this is a perfect establishment to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else in the public like to speak?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. Public hearing is closed. Board members, thoughts? Dawn?
So I know that they're applying for seasonal, but there aren't any annual ones left now. But I kind of feel like it's a very similar business, and with approving that last one, that this one should probably get approved.
What was the last thing you said there?
That this one should probably be approved as well.
When I look at the minutes from last year, it didn't seem that it made sense to approve that after you just denied one around the corner. I think this is a grocery store setting, so it's a little different.
I think there was also last year for me just, some curiosity about how the business would develop, and, being a new business last year, there was a lot of unknowns. I think they had a great first season. And, I also think that these business owners are trying to be responsive to their clientele also. So I still, there's 2 licenses available here. I still have some continued concern, but when I look at this list of what is, where these seasonal licenses are held, and the precedent that we just approved, the last one, I think that I would tend to be in favor of this. I just want to state, though, I really wish it wasn't the case that the margins were so great and that alcohol was the thing that made it possible to supplement in the season and then be able to help keep the lights on year round. It's just a terrible way to have to, consider running a business. And that perhaps if we didn't have that pressure on the being able to make the rents, and never mind the rents, it's staffing, staff housing, all of these ancillary expenses to operating a business. I would not want to be in anyone's shoes in 2022 running a small business in downtown Nantucket. So I think my opinion has shifted a bit since last year.
Thank you, Melissa. Comments?
I'm good.
Okay, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any other last comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 4-0.
Make a motion to, that it is not detrimental to the spiritual activities of the churches in the area.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you.
May I make one ending comment that being a seasonal license, obviously the alcohol will have to be removed from January 15th to April 1st.
Yeah. Okay. All those who are waiting are not going to like what I'm getting ready to say, but we're going to take a 2 or 3 minute break because I've been sitting for 3 hours and have a lot longer. So we're going to take a 3 minute break. And the vice chair just left, so she can't take over.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Should I sing for those in the audience? How's it going? Usually we don't have this many, but we've been trying to keep these all to one meeting a month.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured you kind of knew.
Very much appreciate the real.
Yeah, anytime. It's a lot.
The special,
It's
the
a lot.
special explanation.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot.
Even
There's-
having been there, it's different when you're actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of laws. Yeah, it is. It is.
Monday morning quarterbacking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just, and you're making hard decisions too. Very hard decisions to help between the community and the businesses and how do you support both. And like I said, well, that's why we have problems. Because they're all pushing the limits, not because they want to be that accurate, but because the only way they're making the margins are making it money and paying more than them, stacking it in and just pure off. Because that's margins. It's absolutely accurate statement.
I remember when I was at Dreamland trying so hard to find a business model that did not need or ask for alcohol sales, and it's almost impossible.
It is. Yes, it does.
And I enjoy it. Like I
Yeah, no,
you can't.
but excess drinking goes with that business model.
Be careful, mics are picking up.
Yeah, no, I'm.
So making sure everybody knows it's still live. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready? You ready for public hearing number 12?
Okay,
This is for the Firecracker 5K. Are you back for that?
I'll come back someday. No, the reason I'm not on this one is I spoke on this when we talked about them moving to a new location, but now that their new location goes right by my business, I have to recuse on that part. I will make a comment as an individual, as a business owner, and as a Islander individual. If it's at 7 or 8 in the morning, it works fine. When the board had races in that area at noon, it tied up the whole side of the island. So I think, where they're heading is the right direction, but I can't speak to that as a board member.
Okay. We will open the public hearing to consider a public assembly permit application for Nantucket Health Club's Firecracker 5K run on July 4th at 7 a.m.
Great. So just quickly again, and going over some of the bylaws, this is per Nantucket code. Real quick, no person or person shall engage in, participate, aid, perform, sponsor any public entertainment expected to attract 250 persons or more. Brooke, so when we talk about public assembly, it's 250 or more in a public area. And this includes any form or sponsor, any organized athletic event requires a public entertainment permit attained from the select board. And that's why we're here. Secondly, generally, if a traditional event such as this is the similar thing year to year. We do not need to bring it back for a public hearing, but technically per the code, should there be any sort of major change, we do so just to, do so publicly. And in this case, again, the location has changed, which has been reviewed by public safety and others as to be a good change. And once again, welcome back to July the 4th. So we'll let them speak. It had been moved from July the 4th the past year, so Okay.
Yeah.
If you'd like
Yeah, and Bob Laundrie, representing the Firecracker race. Dave Schultz from Nantucket Health Club. We're excited to have the Firecracker race at this new venue, which is essentially the same as the Nantucket Triathlon run portion, excuse me. And we think the participants are going to enjoy the course. It's pretty along Hulbert Avenue and jetties, of course. And it's a proven course from the standpoint of safety. The triathlon's has run the race there probably over 10 years now. So be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Dave or Bob? Anybody? Let me check the.
It starts at 7:00 in the morning, so it'll be over by, for the most part, 7:45 probably at the latest.
Question, why 7 and not like 7:30 or 8? Just
it's because back a few years ago, prior to COVID, we sort of set upon that 7:00 time frame, and it's a little bit of a disadvantage for the families that have young children to get up and go to it. On the other hand, it's cooler, there's less congestion. It's probably better all around. I think most races that you attend in the summertime have that early start. So, I mean, even when we started at 8, it was hot, so I think it's going to work out well.
Yeah, because by 8, between 8 and 8:30, it's kind of cleared out and you didn't know what really happened.
And also remember, it's on July 4th. There's really not a creature stirring, usually at 7 in the morning on 4th of July. So.
Okay, great.
And it also gives people time to go down to the, the events, the Main Street events.
Yep.
Motion to close the public hearing.
For a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to
Aye.
approve.
Second.
Trying to move things along.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries.
If I could just make a comment, I know it's going to maybe hold things up another 30 seconds.
You've run in it several times, Melissa.
I know. I just want to say I'm really, really thrilled about this. I love the Monday early in the morning in this area, and I know it's great to have it on the 4th of July, but I think, when we start to look at 4th of July landing on a Friday or a Saturday when there's big turnover days, that area just becomes, really hard with families trying to get down to the boat. So, think of that and for future applications.
Again,
would
though,
just be my thought.
it's early in the morning, and
Yeah.
the Cliff Road is closed only very briefly.
Yeah.
And so I really don't think that's.
Yeah, I think this is great though. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right.
Yep, you're all set. Matt, you coming back for this next one? Okay, public hearing number 13. We'll open it to consider public assembly permit application for Nantucket Triathlon Club's half marathon to be held Sunday, October 9th, starting at 8 a.m. at Bartlett's Farm.
So this again, Chair, is a similar situation where a traditional event has changed. Traditionally, over 10 years, it began and ended at the Nantucket Lighthouse School and Rugged Road. Due to their increased size and impact on parking on the residential streets in that area, they're proposing to move the race to Bartlett's Farm. It's generally protected from significant vehicular traffic and is an improvement over the 2021 course from a safety perspective. Registration for the race will be limited to 500 runners. So we see it as a good change.
Yeah.
As you waited this whole time. Thank you.
I'll be brief. My name is James Meehan. I'm the treasurer of the Nantucket Triathlon Club, which is a 501c3. Any net proceeds we do have from this all volunteer effort go back to youth sports and to healthcare needs here on the island. We don't net a lot of money, but we do contribute about $10,000 or $15,000 a year, for youth sports, and it's been a great effort. Obviously, it's got a lot of health impacts. We are going to run a 10K this year as well as a half marathon, so there'll be 2 options: run on the same course We went in front of the land bank. They're very enthusiastic about showing off the smooth hummocks, and it's a globally unique grass plains that, and it's a beautiful course. It's a two loop. Some people don't like a two loop, but too bad. It's very safe. And the reason why we're really moving is not necessarily the parking complaints, but really the safety issues of having runners out on Tom Nevers Road when traffic's coming at them at 45 miles an hour. And we have out of towners who have earbuds in and they're drifting out into the center lane. That, to me, as a race director, was a potential hazard. So we don't have to close any roads for this. And our public safety needs are going to be reduced, even though we're still going to have a fire crew, ambulance crew on station, and we'll have at least 2 or 3 police officers there as well. So, and we provide them with T-shirts, which they like. So, anyhow, we hope you all come out. I know some of you have run it in the past, and we have the 10K option.
I can do one loop
as well. The one loop
Sometimes.
as well. So, and actually, we've got a lot of interest already in it. And Bartlett Farms has been terrific, being our major host, and then the land bank. About 80% of the run is on the land bank. So, it's going to be a really great opportunity to feature Nantucket without having the problems you have with having shutting streets down and causing traffic disruptions. So thank you. And thank you for what you folks do. I mean, you're sitting here for 3 hours. I get to go home, but you do this night after night. So I don't think people really fully appreciate what you guys do. So
Thank you, Jim.
thank you.
When I first heard it was moving out there, I thought, oh, what a great idea. Why didn't we think of this earlier? I mean, it just really, the safety, the 2 loops I actually like for spectators, get more fan involvement. You get to see the runners. It's just even more family friendly than the previous one. It was hard to go out to Matacasham and root people on, or Icama. So I love everything about this route.
The other thing is, actually, believe it or not, we're going to run from west to east. And when you run, you always look to your left for some reason, and you get to see Mayakama Pond. You get to see the bluffs there, and you get to see the ocean facing. So it's a tremendous. And if you ever want to walk it, don't walk from Cisco out. Go the other way around, and it opens up a whole new area. So it's going to be really a great feature for the island. And it's again on a weekend where we're going to have a busy weekend as we had in Indigenous Peoples Weekend, but it's still going to be less impact than having it during the summer.
Any other comments? This is a public hearing. Any public comment?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sure.
I just want to say, I'm a big fan of healthy outdoor family activities and events on Nantucket, and I appreciate this.
Yeah.
I have one more story.
Sure, we love stories.
35 years ago, I came here on our honeymoon, and it was a beautiful May weekend, rainy, cold, wet. My wife said, she's from Florida, said, never again. It took almost 30 years for us to come back for the triathlon. And we came for the triathlon weekend. I said, what a great place to live, and we moved here. So, it is a good selling feature. And I think hopefully you bring the right people back to the island. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Thank you for that comment. I agree, Brooke. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 5-0. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, the last public hearing. Say the best for last. Public hearing to consider a public assembly permit application for Nantucket Cottage Hospital 2022 Boston Pops to be held on Saturday, August 13th.
Okay, thank you. We'll just briefly go over, we've discussed this obviously in the past, a lot of changes to the venue, the safety and security of the venue, and wanted to bring it before the board one last time to approve the final conditions of the permit. I'll let them get to that. Quickly just acknowledge that this is the events part of here is a hard work of our coordinator, Maria Dzvaznik, excuse me. I'm just a pretty face communicating it tonight, so I just want to give her that credit there too. As we've discussed before, obviously this has been a long-term working relationship here, and the hospital and their staff have been great in really adjusting here. Is really dealing with a lot of public safety concerns in the world, unfortunately, that we're living in right now, and dealing with the security of the venue, of folks coming in, limiting, things that are coming into the venue. Obviously, inability for the staffing that we have now with public safety and other departments to staff something for 5,000-6,000 people. So obviously that's where we started. Asked for, as we are with all events across the board, working with the fire department and public safety, is for each of these events and large events to have safety and security plans. What happens if A, B, and C, having that all set up, having any additional needs we need for medical. Lighting was another situation as far as exits and egress in this situation. The concern in previous years was it being dark, it being night, there being thousands of people on a beach, and only being one choke point being the entrance they came into. They're all going to run towards where they're used to. So there was concerns there. We had concerns with the fireworks, obviously we've had several years where there were literally firefighters stamping out fires right on the other side of the dune. So that was one of the other concerns that have been addressed and moved accordingly. So that's just sort of the background there. As we've discussed before, the hospital, and again, I'll let them get into the details of the additional security team that they're bringing on, including state troopers and such. So what we're looking to do tonight is kind of review the high points there that they have put together. Again, have worked very hard on that, and discuss those conditions of the permit, which we will vote on tonight. And also, I think the question has come up as far as a lot of these conditions. What if, the state troopers can't come? What if any sort of movement or inability to kind of come up with some of these things, we will, just ask to deal with public safety. And if we have to make amendments, we will notify the board of those. So that's just kind of the setup there. I'll let the hospital kind of address their overall plan there. Chris, thank you.
Thanks very much, Amy. Chris Glowacki for the hospital. Ashley Glenn is here, who also works with us on this event and has for decades now. Appreciate the board's time. Appreciate all the work that Amy and her office, and also all the really tight coordinated work we've done with fire chief and police chief and others. Not a lot has changed since we were able to update you on where the safety and security plan was. I think in January we were in front of the board. We've added some security. Now we're up to a total of 75 paid security will be on site for this event. As Amy mentioned, we are currently, you're still talking through with Chief Pittman the exact number of state police needed, but had several conversations and have commitments from the state police for 28 officers. So there's got to be quite a lot of people here involved in this event. We had a great planning session yesterday with the fire chief and the deputy chief around ambulance. We're going to have 2 actually contracted ambulances on site and EMS provided contractually on site, which will take pressure off local fire department. Also, since we aren't doing the fireworks, that's quite a few less firefighters that they need to have on site as well. So, as Amy mentioned, usually we're not in front of you with a public hearing if it's the same event year after year. We haven't been in front of you in a public hearing in quite some time. But we're here tonight with an event that's considered, we put a huge investment in safety and security planning. It's a smaller event. And we hope together we've collectively put together something that's very safe and that be a great event for the community. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions?
No questions, just a comment. I think the presentation and the report that was given to us was just really well done. I found it really exceptional and thoughtful that it highlighted how each of the concerns were addressed both by stakeholders or town officials. I really do appreciate the hospital hearing those concerns and reducing the capacity. So thank you. And I wish you nothing but success and a lot of fun this summer.
Thank you.
Yeah, just similar comment. I think the work you guys did is amazing. It sort of makes me sad, the world we live in today, though, where we have to think about, shooters and bombs and, and that type of thing. It's just unfortunate that we just can't, it can't be the way it used to be. It really is. I mean, where we could trust each other and you're not worried about it, but I think you're doing the right thing by thinking about everything and, because it's Nantucket and it's different now. So I thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say, this is my first time at the rodeo for this, and I was so impressed by the packet. It's so incredibly clear, the work that you've put in and how this is going to work and what it's going to look like. It's very impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. And we think it was a good process. I mean, we're actually, in talking to everyone involved, everyone thinks it was probably overdue that we were able to put this much work in. And really, it was a collaborative effort with all the town stakeholders.
Yeah, I think what happens on Nantucket is things creep larger and we don't think about their impact as they creep larger. And this was a really, really thorough assessment of the impact and the potential risk of the event. And for that, I'm really appreciative.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public comment. Or, sorry, public hearing? Is it after 9? Any,
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chris, and everyone who did work on this. And to you, Amy, and all public safety and
If I may, just, I appreciate that. They have done a lot of work. I know. Oh, geez, sorry, I pushed my button. I just know there was a lot of pain in this in the beginning and from the community too, as far as it was never a attack on the event or saying it was a bad event. It was just having to deal with things and the concerns of public safety that I obviously care a lot about. And so that was just really where this came from. And I know it was difficult in the beginning, but appreciate all the work that they've done and the collaboration too as well. And it's a model for kind of how we move forward in a lot of these. So I appreciate that from everyone concerned.
thank you, Amy.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, we're going to move on to town manager's report. I'll just lead us through
Is
that.
there outdoor dining update?
Town manager's report is
Oh,
outdoor
I'm
dining.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm just following the agenda and I was like, oh, that's for the end.
So first
Never
one is the
mind.
update on outdoor dining request. Amy, just when you thought you were done with the public hearings,
I'm not
here
leaving.
you are.
I was hoping not.
She's like, okay, we're done. Okay, so just real quick, if we can go, Erica, to that. So what I had promised to do is obviously update you on applications. Originally, we talked about this. How we're approaching it is, we had the sidewalk dining, any of those that were doing it that wish to apply, and we would kind of deal with that as a case-by-case basis and see what those situations are and the fees. So I've updated some of that. And then on private property, those that wish to extend their outdoor dining can do so on a temporary basis so long as A, they clear any hurdles with planning or any sort of permits of that sort, and B, it's not an increase in occupancy. And then they would have to apply for a permanent alteration of premises to do anything, permanent basis or increase occupancy. So real quick, we have the ones we approved previously. Club Car was approved. Rose and Crown obviously is approved and active, have paid their fees. Backyard Barbecue the same. Juice Bar approved, paid their fees. We're delivering those barriers this week for them to close that street. Born and Bred approved. I'm not sure he's still considering that. The Beat, again, pending that like 91 license or whatever it is, that approval there. We can flip to the next page. Lola 41, they had a approved and active, they had a tented area. They got the approval through building department. They're not sure that's something they want permanently. And I have a plan from them where it does not increase the occupancy. It moves it more into a larger space. And that's their parking lot ownership.
May I ask a quick question, just back to the Beat for a second?
Yep.
So that's really just held up for Chapter 91 license
Correct.
review, not any other issue?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope.
thank you.
We just need to have an agreement there. And there's some attorneys involved in that.
Okay.
So yeah, we would
I know
be
that
fine with that.
Chapter 91 licensing is complicated, so.
It is, and having dealt with some legal issues in that area before, I want to make sure that that's clear. That's it.
Thank you.
And Crew, again, approved and active. That's on the private area. Chicken Box that we discussed as well. Charlie Noble being approved on a temporary basis. Kitties, again, I just spoke with them. Approved. They cleared the planning hurdle. They are not increasing occupancy. They're closing the basement area if they use those side tables and are applying for a permanent alteration at the same time. Next page, real quick. Proprietors, it says pending review. They were having some tables along the side as well. That should be fine. Languedoc, again, has asked for the similar setup that they had. And if fees are paid, that can go forward. Lemon Press, where I have here is the one part of discussion is being not recommended because the town came out in town administration and through us as well, had come out of last year not recommending any sort of allowance of table setups on Main Street from South Water up because of the amount of foot traffic. And especially in the Lemon Press area, and this is something we can discuss as far as your feelings on this. We had we kind of decreased the space over and over the 2 years because it just kept the creep. Again, this is a discussion of a line. They have an incredibly active takeout business and a lot of waiting in that line area, and it became quite congested. It's probably the number one area of complaints that I received from the public, as far as that area being just completely blocked up. I mean, honestly, if it were allowed, I would say dinner would be better because they don't have the takeout business at night, and it's not as many things open. But during the day, boy, that was the number one source. And we came out of, and I told them, was honest with them after 2021 and said, I don't know that we can approve this, but certainly we have to allow for application should they want to try again. So they have applied to do so, to put 3-4 top tables out there. So again, if it's something the board sees differently, I would have to consider that.
My only thought on that is if it was like a 4 p.m. and after, I hadn't thought about that, but it's not a bad idea. And that is definitely what we spoke about earlier, the potential of, we've seen that for years. They're so busy with the coffee and everything that it's kind of, it bunches up there.
Yeah.
But at 4 or 5 after, if they wanted to do tables, if you would recommend that, I'm fine with that. I don't know how the board feels.
I think that's a compromise if I was considering it.
They might not want to do that because you got to bring out, it gets tricky.
Compromise. That would be my suggestion if we were to compromise.
And I know that's not before us right now to approve that, or
it is, and since we don't need to, it's not a public hearing situation, it's a continuation, and certainly the board in the state allows for the board and local licensing authority to make amendments based on public safety, traffic, pedestrian use. That was something we discussed last year. Certainly, if you feel differently.
Yeah, I feel even or the whale is not on here, but I'd be fine. They had a couple tables because it's not. There's nobody really standing outside, right? And if they are, it's at night when they're waiting on a table, and at night is not big of a deal of traffic.
Right.
So I think there's more room at 5 and after, or 4, or whatever you would suggest, Amy. That's my opinion. I don't know what
I think
everybody
dinner
else thinks.
service is a nice compromise for them in terms of having outside seating, and I feel like 4 is still a little too early, and I think the issue is that offices and retail is still open, and that was some of the largest pinch points. But after 6, it could be, but I think that would need to be thought through by them if it's worth it, because it does take staff resources and time to get that set up. But I'd like it to be aligned a bit with not interrupting retail. And I know there's real estate offices there that are probably at least open until 5.
Yes.
5 sounds good. I don't think it interrupts retail because when the takeout line stops, to me that's the factor that kind of messes it all up.
Yeah. If we want to keep it, I think we have to be careful. And I agree, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and give it a try. But I think we have to be very careful that there isn't a backlash. We had you guys had complaints earlier about a new business that had no occupancy, prior, who is now going to be on a street potentially blocking pedestrians. And if the public is unhappy with that, they're going to take everybody down with them. And, and I'm not saying that these guys will do that because they're going to close at 4. And I'm not saying these guys will do it if we do it at 6. I think because we're being careful. But I think this board, if I think as a board have supported the idea of outside dining, but we have to make sure that we do it in a sensitive manner, or we'll have backlash and lose it.
I'm also sensitive to the fact that COVID, obviously I'm wearing my mask tonight for personal reasons, but the pandemic is not over. And I think there are going to be a number of people who would prefer to be able to have the opportunity to eat outside this summer, despite vaccination status.
Right.
So if there was some ability to compromise with them on that, I'd be in support of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I concur with I think 5 o'clock is fine because there's sort of that gives them time to set up, at 5
Mhm.
and then seat people a little bit after that.
Yeah, everyone wants to eat from 6 to 8.
Yeah.
Right.
When you talk to the restaurants, if you,
Right.
or
Right.
7 to 9, they don't want to come early, so.
And I do think for some retail establishments, having people dining actually might be a positive.
I agree.
Like,
Jason's point of the confluence of takeout, outside dining, retail, office hours, natural busyness of downtown traffic is too much pressure on the system. But you eliminate takeout,
Coffee,
all those things, and slower traffic in the evening. I think they could find some success there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Is that enough?
Yeah, we'll
Since
work
it's
on
few.
that.
Okay,
And
great.
There's a couple others that are daytime ones that close at night, and then others that are just night. So it would be a nice balance. So I will work on that. And I also included in here too for you to look at the license agreement that we put together with conditions and stuff like that. That would have the terms and conditions and ability to come back and review and that sort of thing. But so far, knock on wood, we're getting through it.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
The fees, are businesses responsive and feel like they're fair and?
So far, I've had one considering whether or not they're going to do it, if it's worth it, but the others that are using it paid immediately.
Immediately.
Mhm.
Okay, good. That's good feedback.
Yeah.
Anything else there, Amy?
I don't
Board?
think so.
You have to stay to the end. You can't leave.
My head is good.
Okay, thank you for everything tonight, Amy. Moving on to short-term rental work group, Articles 42 and 43 of the 2022 annual town meeting.
Will recuse myself.
Establishment update. We have Denise Cronow here, the Finance Committee Chair. Will give us a quick update. Hi, Denise.
Hello, everybody. How are you?
Great.
I actually think we should just bring Amy back because she's just done such an outstanding job all night. And I think I'm going to just turn over my section to Amy. So there you go, Amy.
I say no to
Anyway.
everything, so go for it.
Okay, so the update is this week is pretty much similar to the last one. So here's the main issues for everybody to understand. There's six participants that have been identified for the pre-work meeting, which is myself, Peter Schaefer, Jason Bridges, Brooke Moore, Dave Iverson, and Barry Rector. What we're going to do is on the meeting next week on the 24th at 4 o'clock, we're going to outline a draft, and I'm doing it in capital letters, draft framework. And that framework will talk about how we constitute the working group, how the working group should actually work, and what's its goals, which is, how do we know it's successful, and what's its objectives, basically what the work should be. And from that, we will either have, and we'll decide next Thursday, we'll either have a joint meeting of the three groups, which is the select board, the finance committee, and the planning board, or we'll take it back per Matt's discussion last week to the individual boards, make any updates or changes to the framework. And then basically these three organizations will confirm the framework, which then will be used to constitute the working group, and the working group will get going. So the idea is that we would have by the end of June, the framework confirmed, and by the end of July, the working group up and running. And then the working group will do the work it needs to do. And it will definitely constitute a broad selection of people on Nantucket. So it won't be related to just the three boards as represented in the Inky Mirror last week. And we will make sure that everybody who needs to have a voice. Now, the idea behind it, though, is that you're never going to have a committee of 30 people because it's not workable. So the sense would be, as and when you need to have people come in and state their views, they will be able to do so. Every voice will be heard. That's what's important on this topic. And each person who's on the committee will then represent their constituency, and it'll be up to them to make sure the constituency's voices are heard for this topic. So that's kind of where we are. The public will get to participate by registering for each meeting. These aren't publicly broadcast like you guys are tonight, but they will be able to register for each meeting like they can for many other meetings. And yeah, the idea is to be fully transparent through every step of the process. Basically what I said the last time I was here. So my new piece of information was that Barry Rector would be the other person on the planning board for the first initial pre-work meeting. Any other, Jason, do you want to add anything to what I just said?
No, I think you covered everything. I think it's good that everybody understands that it's the pre-work group and then the boards come in and just set the framework, and then to decide who's going to be on it. Then it starts, right? So it's not just the six of us deciding everything.
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
And actually, this was just, I thought was personally, and I know Jason, you and Dave agreed, and we talked about it on the floor of town meeting. We understand the urgency and the importance of being, number one, fully transparent. Number two, getting all the involvement that we need to get from everybody who's concerned about this, and to make sure it's a very open process. So, I mean, we started it actually at town meeting floor, the three of us, in terms of talking about how do we go forward now that this is passed in the way that it has. And I think it's just important to get started, once you get started, then we'll have the right discussions and the right input. And facts matter, facts kill opinions. So I think one of the key issues for this work group when it gets started is to make sure they agree data definitions and they agree where the sources of data are. So we make the right judgments that we should make for the community. So yeah, I don't really have much more than that. Unless anybody has any questions.
Yeah, Matt or Brooke?
No, just the same things. I agree with Denise. I think, getting the facts that are gathered so far and identifying the holes and getting filling those holes if necessary is going to be crucial. And, if someone has a suggestion, if we need a facilitator, there may be people who are capable of doing that. I hope you guys talk about that at the meeting.
That is actually, Matt, that is one of the things that we've talked about, is that it would probably be important to have an independent person facilitate and manage, a non-voting independent facilitator to manage the process going forward. So then that way the committee gets the votes, but the person who's managing it and making sure every voice is heard is completely independent of the topic. So we have actually talked about that. But I would encourage people to watch next on Thursday at the 20. Let me look at my calendar. The 26th at 4 p.m. will be our meeting. We'll be discussing the different points of the draft framework, adding to it, making changes. And, at the end of the meeting, we'll open it up at that point for public comment if anybody has any input before we bring it back to our own committees. And I think if we get a really robust framework, it'll really help the committee to kind of hit the ground running. So.
Great. Thank you, Denise. Brooke?
I just, robust community engagement opportunities are probably the most critical because, as you said, Denise, you can't have a committee of 30, but there's many people who have unique and different experiences of the short-term rental market personally and otherwise. And so making sure that we hear from everybody and have really good, objective, facilitated community engagement is critical for this.
Thank you, Brooke. Anything else, Denise?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for leading this pre-group work. Appreciate it.
I have a bias to action, as you know, Jason. So.
Have a good night.
All right. Good night,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Select Board reports and comments. 2022-23 Select Board Committee Representative Appointments. Love doing this after 9 o'clock. Who wants to do what this year? Let me pull this up here.
Can I just, sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
I was just going to note that the BOEM Energy Task Force, it says 2 reps. We do have 1 member signed up. I don't know that it's that active and that we need 2 reps. But I had it highlighted just because it noted 2. And then we have a few committees where it's only supposed to be 1 representative, and we have at least 2 people signed up for them. So it's up to you to decide which one, they're the ones that are highlighted, who's going to ultimately be them.
I would love for Brooke to be on the genetic mice committee.
Thanks. And I just want to say, I just sent in everything that is of interest to me. I'm not like, I'm flexible. So, and what is with MP and EDC? Is there nobody?
Yeah, I was looking at that. I mean, I was going to say you should take the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Okay.
But I'd really like to stay on CPC, and I don't mind doing NP and EDC again.
So you said yes to Affordable Housing Trust?
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy to do MP and EDC. Yes, I would love to stay on the Affordable Housing Trust, or get back on the Affordable Housing Trust, for sure.
We're trying to do one at a time, so.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, we should probably do the MPEDC next week at your county meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, right.
That's why it's not in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's a county thing.
Okay.
So Housing Trust got figured out.
So crack,
Oh, on Bohm, if you need a second, I'm willing to show up anytime.
Okay.
On that, if you need to at some
Thank
point,
you.
but it doesn't happen very often.
so for crack, it's between Matt and Brooke.
Matt, you, absolutely. I'm just curious. I think it's been a really cool process. I'm interested, but.
And then
All right,
CPC.
CPC between Dawn and Brooke.
Dawn?
I'd really like to stay on that.
Yep, all yours.
And
mice has
then,
been,
And I will take-
gleefully given away.
I will take genetic mice. Also super curious about.
parking benefit.
You can have that. Work, it hasn't happened yet anyway.
Okay.
And I'll have plenty to say.
All right.
And then I think the last one was the senior center.
And I'm happy to yield.
Okay.
I mean, it's not active at the moment. Maybe might be again soon.
All right, so we've got Matt for crack, Dawn for CPC, Brooke for genetic mice, affordable housing, and the parking, and then Dawn for senior center. Good?
Yep, sounds good.
And then we'll
Yeah.
bring in the MPDC next week.
Yep.
Great.
Okay, any committee reports or last comments?
Motion
None?
to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Well, one of it was the hearings from tonight that I didn't do anything. That's all right.